I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Our next regular, please silence or turn off your cell phones. Thank you. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Friday, May 11th, 2018 at 9 a.m. at this Community Center, 3500 Edgewater Drive, Sebring, Florida. Consent agenda. Minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on Friday, April 13th, 2018. And resolution number 2018-04/27-12, a resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to purchase new Dell workstations under a state contract with Dell for the amount of $16,805.04. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second. I'm so moved.
Second.
Board discussion? Public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Branson?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
President Camp?
Yes. Action agenda. Discussion. Water plant upgrades. Bid. RFP 18-03 and other utility project updates by Jim Orth, Craig A. Smith & Associates. Tanya, you want to introduce him? Or?
Good morning. Jim is here today to update us on our recent bid. This was actually the second time that we bid out the water plant electrical upgrades, so he's going to explain the situation with that, and he also has a few other project updates for us. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, we got a bid on the rebid, and I'm sure Tanya filled you in what happened with the first contractor. And the bid was quite a bit higher than our engineer's estimate, and we only got one bid. So we're recommending to rebid the project and reject that bid. And I have been aggressively chasing down contractors. I think I got a list of about 8 this time that said they've expressed interest in bidding it. So we're cautiously optimistic that we'll get at least a couple of competitive bids on that project, and we're going to do a short duration, and the plans are still on the website, so I've been sending out the website to all these contractors and trying to get the plans and specs to them so that they're up and running and ready to bid it once we advertise. Let's see, we've got a couple of grinder pump replacements in the works. I'm going to try to get as much information as I can from John Martinez, your operator. And the more information he's got on those lift stations, the less engineering I got to do. Your staff can replace the pump, so I think it's just a matter of us speccing out either a grinder pump or a chopper, so that I think they've been getting clogged a lot and things like that on that one. You've got at your wastewater treatment plant some air piping that needs to be replaced, and we're working with your Marloft, does a lot of your plant work. We're working directly with them to try to get you a good competitive price on that. Again, there's not a lot of reason to get an engineer too much involved with that. If we can get a good price from him, I don't have to do any design work. It'll save you guys a lot of money. And then we've got a proposal in to do some SCADA upgrades at your treatment plant and to move some controls over to your new maintenance facility. So I'm going to try to get that job up and running. Any questions?
Thank you, Jim. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question for you. Can you
speak into the mic? Thank you.
I was just wondering, can you explain why you think we had a problem getting bids?
Well, it's specialty work, and so there's not a lot of local contractors. The one we got to bid it was out of Port Ritchie, New Port Ritchie, I think he was. And there was a lot of, we looked through his price and his bid prices. There was either a lot of markup on it, or he figured if he was going to come over here and do the work, he'd have a lot of profit in it. But it is specialty work, so it's hard, it's hard to get people to come over to Sebring and do the work. The names that I've gotten are out of Tampa and all around Haines City and things like that. But, we had the one local guy was going to do it, but...
Again, I don't understand the procedure that well and how we do it, but you're able to find 8 guys that may possibly submit bids.
Yes.
But when we
they've
turned it
expressed
into
interest. Yeah, we just didn't get out the word good enough. We weren't aggressive enough about calling all these contractors. And
just for future reference, what should we have done that we didn't do?
Really, that's probably what we should have done is called a lot more contractors and try to get more of an interest in it.
Okay. And the projects that you mentioned 3 or 4 projects that still have to be done that you're working on.
Yes.
And those are all in the budget. And we have submitted, we put out for bid yet, or we haven't put out for bid yet?
Not yet.
We have not.
No, one of them is a design job, and then the other ones we're just going to try to get you good quotes, without having to go out to bid for it, to do it that way.
Yeah, the grinders, I don't know the cost there, but I believe that's going to be an under $25,000 project. That's why we don't need to go out for bids, I believe, on the pump purchase. And
yeah, those are just the pump.
Yeah, these are smaller projects he's speaking of. Now, the SCADA,
that's a bigger project.
We will have to put that out for bid, the SCADA upgrades that he spoke about.
Some go out and some don't go out.
Correct, depending on the dollar threshold, yes.
Okay, and how important is these what needs to be done on the water treatment plant upgrades? I mean, is that real important? We got to do that.
Yes.
There's little urgency with that, right?
That's priority. Yes.
What's the engineering estimate on that project? How much?
It was
the engineering,
$300,000.
Okay.
yeah, originally.
And that's not big enough to attract bidders.
Yeah, it was specialty work. We had a good price. We had a $200,000 price on it.
That's where my follow-up, I guess, would be, Jim, and I appreciate it. Now we have a number of people that might be interested in this and bidding the project, and I think you mentioned that most of them are from the outside of the area as well. In your professional opinion, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but we went to a 500 and, what was it,
540,000, 540.
Better than double the initial cost of the outfit out of Lake Placid, actually. Wasn't it out of Lake Placid?
It was 200, right? I got it here.
The original.
The original, I'm sorry, yes.
The original
200,000, yes.
Yeah. And the last one we got was 541. How confident are you that we're going to get something less than that and get the quality of work that we need?
I've been assured by some electrical engineers that the contractors that they listed, they're good contractors, and they do the smaller jobs. They're not real big, not going to have a lot of markup. So we're pretty confident.
Okay. Thank you.
When is that bid going to be due?
Within 2.5 weeks, we're going to be looking at a bid opening.
What does that put us? We'll know by
the
middle of next month?
Yes.
And Supervisors, if you don't mind, I didn't feel a need to do an actual resolution on this, but since the bid was received, obviously the board has the ability to reject all bids. I think there should be a motion to reject all bids and direct a rebid of the project. If someone will make that motion, and if we can get a second and
I'll make the motion to reject the bid.
Second.
Just call a roll. Any public comment?
Public comment? Okay, Chrissy?
Supervisor Branson?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
President Camp?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next on the action agenda, resolution number 2018-04/27-13, a resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to award the bid for the Unit 2 ditch and culvert cleaning designated as RFP 18-02 to ADFS Limited or LLC for $39,473.60. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Board discussion?
Well, again, my only concern is if you look at the 5 bids that were turned in, we have a range of $8,576 up to $118,000. So I guess I'm concerned over, I know probably 8,000 was too low, but we got 118,000, 97, I'm rounding them off, 97,000, 56,000, and we're at 40. Is the bid that we're looking at taking. Are we comfortable that this is going to get done what we need to get done?
Supervisors, I wanted to mention the first bid that he mentioned, the $8,564, they withdrew their bid, so we have 4 bidders now.
Are we comfortable? And again, are we capping this that they can't go over a certain percentage? I always like that.
What do you mean by over a certain percentage?
You know, like the most they're allowed, the most leeway we'll give them is 10% over their bid.
What do you mean for like future or additional work?
No, for the work they're doing.
Zero.
Huh?
It's zero.
Yeah, if you get it, unless,
It's a lump sum, so they're going to complete all work we have in the bid specifications for the money given. We did give them an option to provide additional pricing for change orders if we want, like say we have another culvert in the district we want to do. We did provide them with an option to fill out pricing to do additional work. But for the number that we have listed, that's the total job for the Unit 2 residential culverts.
No additions.
No additions by the contractor.
yeah, not unless they request a change order and you guys approve it. That's the only way they get anything additional.
Yeah, if we request one.
Drew, just as a follow-up to that, you were talking about other work in the area. Just so I hope I didn't misunderstand it. You couldn't really award them to do additional work in a different area without getting an approval and going through a bid process. Is that not true?
We can approve change orders, like if there was another culvert, we could, if something we wanted to do, like, or if we missed a culvert, even in the same area, we can approve that following the procurement process we have.
Okay. What I'm trying to ascertain here is, I understand that you could do a change order, but if it's not in that relative area to that unit, could you do that, or would you have to rebid? Let's say you're doing work in Unit 2, but you need work done in Unit 15. You can't piggyback on that through a change order, can you?
You should be able to.
Yeah, we could do something like that if it was something minimal, but I mean, we couldn't say, oh, well, now we're going to do a change order that adds all of Unit 15. We couldn't do something like that and add, an additional $25,000 or $50,000 worth of work.
Okay.
That would just be a separate project.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have, when I met with Tanya about this, Mike wasn't available, or Drew, but the culvert, after the culvert, are we going to extend that? I asked that at last meeting. Are we going to take them trees out and go down the middle of that thing and get it ready for any other development, or do they do sections at a time?
Is that on Matanzas?
Well, it's between Matanzas and Granada. Do we do that section at a time?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we won't go from that culvert in.
Right.
Until it's cleared.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any additional board discussion? Public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Branson?
Yes.
President Camp?
Yes. Resolution number 2018-04/27-14, a resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to approve resurfacing portions of the district parking lots by piggybacking on an agreement between Excavation Point and the City of Avon Park dated February 8th, 2016, and extended on January 29th, 2018, for the amount of $74,200. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Board discussion?
The only thing I'll say is I asked Tanya in our meeting, I was concerned how bad that place looks, and she said Mike's going to get that cleaned up around there. Around where the parking lot is, it's pretty shaky looking, and she assured me you guys will get that taken care of. Okay.
Chrissy? I did public comment. Nobody wanted.
Any specific questions about what we're doing there? I mean, the map, indicates what we're completely
You're doing
gonna
it, you're
re-
lining it, it's going to be complete.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
good enough.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel,
Yes.
Supervisor Branson,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks,
Yes.
President Camp.
Yes. Add-on items?
None.
Petitions and communications.
Yes, we have one.
We have one, right?
Yes.
The Quinn Group?
Yes.
He's here. Mr. Quinn? Is it Mr. Quinn? Would you like to come up to the podium? State your name.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It was a nice ride from Miami. I left at 4 o'clock this morning. Dear Board of Supervisors, we are the owner of several lots in the area, but the petition is particularly in a lot located at 4441 Alcantara Avenue. For some reasons that has no excuse, the assessment in this lot has not been paid for the last 4 years. It was just a mistake in the part of one of our clerks. She paid the taxes, the real estate taxes. She paid the taxes in all the lots in Swan Lake. She, for one reason or the other, the assessment wasn't paid because, as you know, not all the lots in Swan Lake that have this special assessment, so it wasn't paid. The reason of my petition here today is that we owe some money in that lot, okay, and we are willing to pay in full the amount of money owed to the lot, but we are respectfully request that you will forgive us for the late fees incurred during this period of time. We are ready to pay that amount in full today if you agree with our petition. Thank you very much for listening to me, and that is what it's all about.
Thank you. Board comment?
Is there any precedent here? I mean, have we dealt with this sort of thing before? And if so, what did we do?
Well, you always have the ability to forgive penalties and interest if you want. In the past you have, in the past you haven't. There's no precedent that you're required to adhere to specifically. So you can just make a decision on just whether or not you want to grant it in this instance.
Question I have then, and I didn't look it up. I looked up the singular lot. How many lot? I know it's dealing with one. This is just one lot on Alcantara, right? Alcantara. How many other lots does this group own?
Sir.
In Sun Lake?
In Sun and Lake.
On the Queen Group, we have another lot in the Maserati. And under another companies, we have another lot in the Brownwood. We used to have a total of 8 lots. We have sold 3 of them, okay, but the only lot that is assessed, okay, with the special asset is the one in Alcantara.
So just to clarify, those other lots are not in Sun and Lake?
They are not.
They're all in
Yeah.
They are
That's
not.
what I wanted to know. They were
Not in
so
Sun Lake.
the only
Also
lot is
clear.
Sun and Lake. This is the only lot you own in Sun and Lake
Correct.
District?
District, that's correct.
Thank
And
you.
that was the mistake that was made for the person. That's it.
The Quinn
Just
Group
to be
was-
clear, you did the financing on the sale? Is
I'm
that,
sorry?
you financed the sale, and that's how you were able to take the property
What
back?
happened is that we were the lenders of this lot, and we had to foreclose them,
Okay.
okay? And when we foreclosed, we took possession of the lots, okay? With the idea, and we still had that idea because we had done it in Port Lavelle, of build in the future, okay? When the prices start catching up more in this area.
Okay, so the more pertinent question might be, do you have other lots here that you have been the lender on and are in the same potential position?
I have other lots here, but not in the district.
Okay.
The only lot that we have in the
No other
district
lots
is...
that you have been the lender on in Sun and Lake?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right,
And we have repossessed them, some of them.
that's fine.
Okay.
So, just to go back as a follow-up, so I want to make sure you took this possession of this lot after since 2012, you've been the lender on this lot?
We took the...
Or did you own
I believe that we end the foreclosure of the lot, okay, in 2000, I don't know exactly, but 2012, 2014, around there.
Okay.
We took possession of the lot in 2012 or 2014.
So in 2012, you kind of took the lot back because
That's
the
right.
lender defaulted on it?
That's right. And if there was any money due to the district then, it was paid by us at the foreclosure.
And so, once again, so I need to just understand, I appreciate all your help. So from 2012 to 2017, and this might be a question to Omar and the organization within the district, were we sending the billing out for the assessments to the appropriate address to his group?
Yes, we were. I think what he's trying to mention is there was an oversight on his part. He was paying the Zoyer taxes, county taxes, but was not paying the Sun and Lake taxes. But yes, they were receiving an assessment every year. They were receiving 2. They get one in November when the original assessment goes out, then we send a delinquent notice that just went out in April. So you get 2 a year, every year.
But no inquiries were made against it?
No inquiries. We don't have anything on our files. Never
With
got a call.
all due respect, the notice was sent, and it was a mistake in our part. It was ignored by one of our clerks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not here to, I'm just thinking if I receive something year after year after year, I would possibly question, I would call the people that send me this and say, why am I continually getting this bill for 5 or 6 years?
Absolutely right.
Yeah, and so that's why I was trying to understand a little bit here.
Absolutely. There is no excuse in this, okay? It was a mistake made by one of our employees. Pay the real estate taxes, she didn't pay the assessment. Why? Because it's the only lot that receives assessment, so she ignored and she never requests any information. That is the reality.
Okay, thank you.
If we were to forgive it, Omar, could something be in there that they couldn't do it again without, so we don't have to come back?
No, if it happens again, he'll probably be in the same boat where he'll come back to the board and ask, because we won't give it to him at the district office.
Okay.
So we'll be back in this boat again.
In this number that you calculated, and I didn't run all the numbers, does that include the attorney fees? Are you including the attorney fees in this 312143?
I don't think so. I think that the attorney's fee is $250, And I don't think it's not included in there.
5, 6.
Is that the right number? Omar, is that the right number?
Yeah, so
31?
if we do just the late fees alone, it's $898.20. If you add the 210 to that, then it's going to be somewhere in that $1,000 range. But just penalties alone is $898.20.
Well, is the number he wrote down, 312143, is that the actual assessment charges for
That
those
is
years?
give me one second. $3206.58.
320658.
Correct.
That includes
That's $499.43 times 6 years plus the 210.
plus the 210 for attorney fees.
Correct.
Because we have to give,
We have to pay
these guys their money.
Oh, that includes, okay. That's the assessment charges plus the $210 for attorney fees?
$210.
So that total is $3206.58.
Correct.
Okay.
Can we ask what you guys' recommendation would be? Is that, can we do that? Sure. Okay. What is your recommendation?
My recommendation would be to not grant the request. We've had people with lot exchanges in the back of Center Lake who wanted to do the lot swap program. You know, a couple months back when we disseminated that program, they made the same request to bring their lots current and make a swap. And the board at that time decided not to do it either. So once again, they received the notices. We did what we did on our part. So that would just be my recommendation. I have offered him the opportunity to have some sort of payment arrangement if they can't come up with a lump sum, in order to provide some sort of assistance in order to get it paid in a timely manner.
With all due respect, we want to pay in full.
I understand.
We want to pay in full whatever we owe you and keep going with the payments from now on a regular basis, like we pay the real estate taxes.
I understand.
Okay.
So you did offer a payment program for the full amount, is what you're saying?
Yes.
And you declined the payment program that he offered?
Because we don't need a payment program. We know that we made a mistake. We are willing to pay the entire amount that we owe now and keep going with the regular payments in a regular basis. Okay? What we need is a break here in the late fees. That is the only thing that we need. A payment program, it may imply that we are something that is not true. Okay, we did not pay this because we made a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah. My only other opposition to this circumstance too is that he's not the original owner. If he was the original owner and had an intention to develop, but he's an outside lender who's probably going to try and sell this again and make a profit for it. So it makes it a little bit different than a normal situation where I made a mistake. I'm the owner. I've been here for 20 years. I've always paid. This is just an outside party who's taking it over by foreclosure and is in it to make some money.
Okay. So,
remember something, sir, we were not the owner. We had to foreclose on this.
Right before that, where you were the lender and charging a certain interest rate to make money off the
Absolutely, but we had to foreclose on this. We took a possession of this lot.
I understand.
As a problem, and we try to solve this problem here now. And I have been very honest with you guys about this whole situation. All the real estate taxes are paid in full in all the lots, okay? And we have this situation here that we would like to really resolve, okay? And believe me, if you resolve the situation here, we don't want to be here and you'll be receiving all the payments in a regular basis, okay? When the time is due that we pay the taxes on the lot. Our businesses know to be foreclosed by you or by the government. We already had to foreclose this lot.
So, just one final question from me at least. Would you be willing to pay make your payment that included the lawyer fees, which comes out to $3,206.58? Would that be agreeable?
If that is the fees without the late fees and the autonomy fee, yes.
That would include the lawyer fees?
Yes,
So
of course.
That would be agreeable to you?
That will be agreeable to me to pay immediately.
Okay.
I have a check here to pay if that is needed.
Omar?
Remember one thing, we have a problem here. Excuse me, I want to I want to say this. The lots in the area, they has no increase substantially in the sense that we can sell this tomorrow and pay the debt, okay? We are going to either or hold on this lot or buy the adjacent lot that is for sale and try to see if we build to get out of this situation, okay? But the lots in the area, if I put this lot for sale today, okay, probably it will not be sold for the amount of money that will cover this debt. And that is the reality of this. So we have this alternative build to try to, like we have done in other communities, or give the lot to you in lieu of foreclosure or something like that. I had to discuss with my lawyers and my accountant about the situation here. So I really am asking for your help here and your understanding.
Okay. Thank you very much. Omar, if this were to go to foreclosure, would you be seeking a 4104, 78, and any additional fees that might have happened over the time of the foreclosure? Correct. Is that what you would be seeking?
Yes.
No more than that?
No.
Well, there'd be an additional attorney's fees.
Yeah. Additional, yeah, I know. I went through that before. Yeah, there would be the additional attorney fees. Okay, on top of that.
What do we do now?
Someone, if they want to, you want to reduce it, someone needs to make a motion and vote on it.
I'm sorry?
I said, if you want to offer him a reduced amount, you need to make a motion and have a second and vote on it.
But then we have to, we don't discuss it, we just
Oh, no, you can
No, you can further discuss it.
amongst ourselves, between us now?
Yeah.
Yeah, between us guys.
You know, $3,000 is $3,000. I take the money, take him by his word. That's my personal.
Did you say you had a check with you today? Is that what he said?
Yes.
Did he say that? Okay, I want to make sure I understood, because I...
You have a check with you today?
Okay.
Yes.
Can you make it out to? No.
I had a check with him when I came, and I asked for it. Yes.
Where'd you come, where do you live now, Florida? I mean, down Miami?
Miami.
You came
I
from
drove
Miami?
from Miami this morning.
You drove from Miami this morning?
4 o'clock in the morning.
That doesn't get you any sympathy votes, but good job.
I consider this important.
Is that a personal check or cashier's check?
Cashier check I don't have. I can pay with a credit card if you want.
Okay, that check, but it's made out for the 312143. Is that what you're saying, or is it blank?
No, it's not a cashier check.
Oh, okay.
It's a blank check.
It's your regular check.
We made for the amount of the principal project.
Okay.
And if you want, I will pay with a credit card. Okay?
No.
That will be it.
It'll cost us more money.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, we don't have a motion on the table. Somebody want to put a motion on the table?
Does anybody agree with what I want to do? I'll put a motion on the table to pay, for him to pay $3206.58, which is what he, just eliminating the penalties and adding the lawyer fees.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, now we need to take a vote on it. Chrissy?
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Branson?
No.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
President Camp?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Make that out to, step right over here to our cashier. What? No.
No, we're not. We're not.
$3,000 of money that we don't have, that was due us.
After we foreclose, we spend more than that.
Take the money.
Yeah.
And if you default in the next
I'll take the
year or
money
two,
that they owe us.
then we'll slap it on them right away. Thank you very much. Thank you. Staff reports?
We have an update on the drainage. They're about 2 weeks out before they finish what they contracted for. I I've been very happy with the contractor. We got a lot of feedback from the residents, not too many complaints, so that's been good. We have watch orders have been almost doubled in the last couple of weeks. So you'll be seeing security a lot more in the gate than you have in the past. Over the last month, everything else has been pretty quiet. What's there anything? Yes. We had the head of security has resigned, or my supervisor, he has resigned. We have hired a new supervisor from security. He's coming from the hospital, from Florida Hospital to here. He's a former sheriff in Michigan. He has very good background, and I think he'll be an asset to our department. He's also a local resident here at Thunder Lake, so he'll be starting. And I may bring him to the next meeting to introduce you to him.
That would be nice.
Okay.
Tell him to bring a check.
All right. All right, that's all I got.
That's all, Mike. Thank you. Any additional staff reports? General Counsel report.
Well, and hoping not to jinx it, it appears that Ayala has been settled. The district's expense in the settlement was only $5,000. The rest of it was paid by the district's insurance. Based on the $5,000 amount, but talking with Tanya, she's got the authority to approve that expenditure, so we told her to go ahead and do that so we could get it settled. All we're waiting on is each individual plaintiff is executing a full waiver and release, and we're just going to expect those to start, hopefully be in the next week or two. And that'll be the end of it.
Thank God.
At least as far as the district is concerned. So that's all that I've really got.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
There were other defendants.
Correct. I don't know if it's going to be sufficient to completely eradicate the case altogether, but the district is no longer going to be involved in it.
General Manager's report.
Yes, the Unit 2 culvert cleaning was awarded today. I wanted to mention that district staff is working on the informational letters to send to all the residents. There is 165 culverts that will be cleaned in Unit 2. That affects about 150 residents. I don't know, there's dual 156. So we have 156 residents that will be affected by the culvert cleaning, so we're going to be sending out those letters here in the next week or so. We believe the contractor could start on this project in 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll be starting very, very soon on that project. As Mike mentioned, KDL is about 2 to 3 weeks out, depending on the weather, but we're very anxious to get that project finished. Our roof repair bids that we have out right now are the bid documents. The bids will be due on Tuesday, May 1st at 2 p.m. That'll be next week. And just a quick update on Global Golf. I had a phone conference call with Henry Delosier and his team yesterday, and they're working on finalizing their financial recommendations and governance review. And I will send out those documents to you as soon as I have them. But their goal to have a final draft of the strategic plan will be mid-May, knowing that we're going to be going into our budget process. Their goal is to have us a final document sometime in the next month or so.
Did they answer the questions that we gave to you?
Yes, I have yours. They've answered those, and I'll be sending those to you in the email. I haven't sent them yet, but I do have them.
Should we not share it with everybody? Or no, we don't do that?
I certainly can, yes.
You can do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I don't want to send anything to you. I'll let her do it.
Yeah, I'll do it. I can send a copy of his questions to Global Golf and the answers that they responded with. So Mr. Stiegel had some comments. They also responded to Mr. Stiegel. I have those in email.
I've never seen it.
I know. I just received it. What I'm saying is I'd like to send it to you.
Well,
I think we all should see each other's. I mean,
yeah, I agree. I didn't know whether they were breathing or not. You know, I said I don't like this, and I never heard any more.
So I have his responses, and if there's any more formal responses you all would like to give me, I'll be glad to send those to Global Golf.
So I thought, just clarification, that was phase 1 that we got. That's 60
That was
pages.
phase one, yes, it's 60 pages.
And I thought there were like 5 phases, no?
There's, as far as 5 reports, I'm not sure. The first phase was an operational review, so they did that. There was no, the report that you received encompassed the operational review and market review. So that written report, I believe there's going to be 3 more written reports besides what we just received. One of them is going to be a financial review. The next one will be a governance review, and that'll be from Henry Delozier, and then the final project strategic plan.
Okay, and that's all going to be between now and mid-May?
Yes.
And everybody's waiting on the strategic plan, I bet.
Yes. Well, the financial review will have some specific recommendations in it, so I'm anxious to see that. That's going to some of their comments that they're going to have and recommendations will relate to what they mentioned in the market review, so especially related to golf. And that'll be something I'm anxious to see.
Well, just for everybody's edification, my issue with them was that they're in wherever they are, Arizona or wherever, telling us we should do this, that, and the other without having talked to anybody, to my knowledge, that actually plays golf at Sun and Lake or is a member. To me, they were solving problems that don't exist and giving us solutions that don't make sense. For example, they said our members are playing too much golf and they have too long ahead of time to make. But our challenge is the times that they're saying members are taking up tee times, they're not. In addition, we really need to get more members. The last thing we want to do is offend the ones that we have, so we need to keep them and get more, or at least get more utilization out of our golf courses at non-peak times. So, and this happens a lot with consultants. They jam you into a template that already exists and make the recommendation based on what happens around the world. It's not specific to Sun and Lake, and I find that extremely offensive. If I'm going to pay you to do things, and I should be saying this to Henry Delozier probably, but if I'm going to, and I probably will, but if I'm going to pay you to do this, by damn, I expect you to look at it from a specific standpoint and don't tell me generalizations.
That's a pretty valid point.
Yeah, and I mentioned that to Tanya myself. I was just very disappointed in the way the whole thing was handled, even though I'm a big supporter of Henry Delozier. But if I don't see a change, I mean, all these recommendations come out, and they never talk to one supervisor. They talk to employees, management.
Talk to me.
Never talk to me.
You guys were.
Well, I said hi to him in a meeting.
I mean, that's the initial meeting.
That's not a.
Well, that's the only time I've seen.
Yeah, that's not a. He never asked me any questions about what I felt about anything, and I just hope that we can, when he gets back, that we can get together and make this a team. But I certainly disagreed with a whole bunch of the stuff that was in there, and that's what I was afraid of, that he wouldn't speak to anybody but people who work for us. And they certainly have a different opinion when it comes to our members playing too much golf than I do, and wanting to open it up to more public golf. That just is so.
I don't have a problem with opening up to public golf, but the issue is there's not that much demand at specific times they were talking about. So they're talking about limiting member play on Saturday morning, and we don't have anybody out there on Saturday morning because I generally play and there's 20 people on the golf course. Maybe we do need to go get more public play, but we got to find the demand. We don't need to tell the members first, you can't have these tee times. And that's basically what they were saying. That makes zero sense to me.
But I'm hopeful we can get that worked out. I mean, exactly what I was afraid of happened.
I read the report a little bit differently. I thought they were just pointing out the facts, and the facts are that members play a disproportionate amount at Sun and Lake, which is true.
Well,
they're just pointing it out, I thought.
But they had a specific recommendation that members not be allowed to make tee times 3 weeks in advance.
There was something, but I mean, you got to.
Well, if you want more members and you want members to be happy, you don't take things away from the members.
But I think the original point that Dan brought up, are we going to see Henry again, or is this it? We already saw him. I mean, I think paying him $38,000, or his company, $38,000, and based on his one visit to Sun and Lake, I got to agree wholeheartedly with Mike and Dan that that's unacceptable.
I'll find out for you. The last item I have is I have a phone conference scheduled today with GAI Consultants, our assessment methodology review, and that's today at 3:30. So I'll have an update for the board next week on that.
You said we're going to be getting that report very soon, correct? Or
I expect to, yes. Today, I believe that we might have a draft of some of the recommendations on rates. I hope. And but I'll keep the board up to date on where we are with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Unfinished business?
None.
New business?
None.
Committee reports?
None.
Public comment?
Greetings, supervisors, board members, and residents. Am I allowed to comment on that golf situation? I was just thinking there, little brewing.
Anything you want.
Oh, thank you. I'm a resident of Sun and Lake near the Florida Hospital. And what came to mind, which I'll send suggestions in the email, we can do that, yes? But hopefully this isn't a waste of time. The teams, like I was thinking about, maybe not high school, but their college teams and stuff, invite them in to do training or practicing. And they would love it. The course is beautiful. I ride my bike around there, so I can't see why they wouldn't want to do it. I don't know what the policies are for inviting, schools or colleges. It might be a kink in that. But that's just one idea. So inviting public people and have someone that can control, because it could get out of hand. You want to make sure those are the right people there or whatever, and the people are supposed to be there, blah, blah, blah. So it does pose some additional work. But it might even open up another job for someone. Thank you.
We do actually, for the high schools, we have a program that we actually do for the high schools, but that's an excellent suggestion.
Thank you. And I'm not a golfer, but my husband's out of surgery, so we might end up joining you all with that. We've never done that yet, but it's sounding interesting now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any additional public comments? Thanks, Bill.
Good morning. Earlier, too. I was speaking with a former district supervisor, and I mentioned it to Dan earlier before the meeting, and he has suggested or put in a budget on security. It was a $15,000 budget item, and that would be to have a sheriff with ticketing capability to work once a week, twice a week, and stop some of the dangerous speeding that we have that's completely out of control. Now, somebody's going to get hurt out there. I had a vehicle the other day that had to be going 65, 70 on Sun Lake Boulevard. He ended up going to the gas station at the Shell. Why? I have no idea. But that's the kind of characters you have here. There's got to be some kind of change. Now, $15,000 for a year seems to be a very reasonable request, because we just discussed, almost $700,000 worth of work to be done in the district. So I'd like to have that idea maybe under some kind of consideration. How can we approach that?
Question and answer.
Bill, we have approached it. We've contacted the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department actually have an office here at Sun Lake. They spend quite a bit of time here. They also ticket quite a few people here. But they're not going to catch everybody. All right. I was on Schumacher the other day. almost got hit by a vehicle. Well, guess what the vehicle was? It was a post office truck. All right? You can't, we can't be everywhere. The sheriff's department can't be everywhere. I think they do a pretty good job here. And you're right, there's many, many times that, people are speeding up and down the road, but they're not gonna catch everybody, There's thousands of vehicles that come and go here every day, all right? I mean, maybe there are some options to add some more speed bumps and speed signs, I don't know. But, I mean, I really think the sheriff's department, they do a pretty good job, but they're not going to stop everybody. And I know you brought this up 2 or 3 times, right? But the sheriff's department, they are here.
Well, the point I wanted to make, it was in a budgetary item for $15,000, probably for overtime, to have a fellow out here once a week, twice a week, randomly at different positions. But what it really gets me is that I go by the district office and I see 2 vehicles in there for an hour, hour and a half. Now, how long does it take to have a cup of coffee and a donut and make out some papers? It's absolutely ridiculous. We pay a lot of money into the county government, and I'm not saying take anything away, but allocate some kind of financial ability so that we can have some kind of control. I understand you can't get everybody. We have a lot of cars in here. But occasionally when you have a vehicle, a police car on Sun Lake Boulevard, on Columbus, on some of these other streets that are Granada, I hear people complain all the time. So I just wish that it could be instituted. And is there any reason why not?
I can tell you, I don't know if I'd be in favor of it because we pay them enough now, and they should be doing it without us paying an extra $15,000. But I'm certainly open to listening to other conversations about it and stuff. But I think we pay for that now.
Supervisors, I mean, all we have to do is a request to the sheriff's office. Is if we have areas of concern, we can ask them to patrol those areas a little bit more. That's all we have to do.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be glad to do that, and they have for us. They have looked at certain areas and patrolled, like for 5 days straight. They've done some work for us, but we'll be glad to request some additional areas for sure.
And then we had one sheriff's department gave it was 30 tickets out in one day. Well, the residents called and complained and said, why am I getting a ticket for going through a stop sign? You're going through a stop sign. But, it's, I mean, I really think the sheriff's department does a pretty good job.
I'm not a...
And you know what? And Bill, when you said they spend an hour there, well, you know what? There's a lot of paperwork, and there's and it's not just coffee and donuts. Believe me, I wouldn't want to be out there every day.
Well, I'm telling you, it's the observation of a taxpayer.
That's unfair for you to say that. Just,
okay.
I want to be that.
Well, all I know is that...
Hold it. Time out for a second. Time out.
Quickly.
Time out. We're going to look into it. They said that they already have people there. Let's see if we can maybe get where the complaints are coming from, if it happens to be on Schumacher, if it happens to be on Granada, and see if we can get them to come in maybe on some specific days and run a little test pattern to see if we're having a problem. Can I ask you to do that, Michael?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
One other
Thanks,
item
Bill.
quickly is that we have workshops here, and at the end of the regular session, you'll have a workshop, and people sit around for 2 or 3 hours. And there should be some public comment in that workshop on a specific thing. Mr. Wondling was here last time, and he said, is there anything we could do to make Sun Lake more improved? Well, I had a list of 12 things right there, and things that have been put off and put up. So just a little more...
Send him an email.
To have a public comment.
Send Ron an email and say, Ron, during this particular discussions, here's some of my suggestions. I don't think typically during the workshop we open it up to general comment. The workshop is designed to be kind of discussed amongst those involved directly and the board. And I'm not trying to shut you down. I'm just saying that it's not an open forum. That's not the design of a workshop.
Well, specifically, he mentioned, he says, is there anything we could do to improve the golf course? And therefore, the one or two people who are left out here should have been able to say something. That's all.
Yeah, and just Ron Wonderling, just to comment. Mr. Norcross, you do have my email address because we've communicated in the past. So I've always had that open communication with the membership. So anything that ever comes to mind, I know I get emails monthly typically on a couple topics, but please reach out. And I'll circle back with you after the meeting.
Thanks, Bill. Hey, Wally.
My name's Wally Edgell, and I'm a resident. I have a point to bring up about budget. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to do it, or for something to be added to the budget, or at least be considered for the budget. So first of all, I asked the President, is it appropriate to bring that point up now? You want it at a budget meeting, or how would you like to hear?
You can do it now,
okay.
Wally.
I served on the board for a couple of years, as you all know, and so I know a couple things that go on. So I asked Tanya one time to get me a list of all the districts in the state of Florida so I could study and find out different things about them, what they do and what they don't do and so forth. And she graciously got me my list. And I contacted a lot of these districts, the supervisors, the managers and so forth. Some of them wouldn't call me back because they probably thought it wasn't any of my business to be contacting them. But I got a lot of information regarding salary of supervisors, and even went to county commissions to find out what they're making and so forth, because relatively the same position as a county commissioner with the things that you all do and the services that you provide. I just think it's a total disgrace that the supervisors be paid $350 a month to spend all these hours that you spend.
We got a raise?
Yeah. Well, how much is it now? I don't know.
300.
300?
300 or 56 an hour.
You don't come back on that. Okay, so there's $300. I think that's just a total disgrace to ask people to do that for that type of money. Now, there's no one sitting there on that board, and when I was on the board, it's the same thing. We don't need the $300 a month. However, it's just inappropriate for someone to want to be on this board and work the hours that these people work and take the grief that they have to take and all the BS that they have to listen to and not get at least a little penance for it, something. So when I talk to these other places, many of them are making more money than that a month. The thing that looked like about an average to me is about $1,000 a month. And these people didn't even have golf courses, they didn't have sewage plants, they didn't have water plants. They weren't even in that type of business, and they're getting paid so much more. So I just think, and I know it's a tough decision for the board. I don't know if I'd have voted for it when I was on the board, but I think it should at least be considered that a pay hike be given to these people to serve the duties that they're serving. When I was on the board, Jennifer and I kept track for 2 months one year of how many hours I worked, and I religiously gave them to her. She divided it up, and I was making 30 cents an hour. That may be one of the reasons I'm not on that board, but it wasn't the main reason. But I think it's just ridiculous. So I'd like for you to consider putting in the budget at least $1,000 a month per supervisor. And if you figure it up, what is that, about $60 a year, which is very little when it comes to the money that you spend and these people are responsible for doing, that they at least ought to get that. I also thought about maybe a golf membership. Well, that won't work because one of these days you're going to have people on the board that aren't golfers. Let's face it, and that'd be fine. But I'd like for that to be considered in the budget. That'd be my recommendation. And if you have any questions, I can answer your questions about people I talk to and supervisors I talk to and general managers and so forth. And Tanya, I appreciate your list. It was perfect. Everything was right there.
Thank you, Wally.
That's it. Thank you.
It's like voting for term limits.
Yes.
Good morning, Joan Shoemaker, Matanzas. I'm here, and I've just been told recently how to petition for the bumps, humps, whatever y'all want to call them, We've had a dog killed that was being walked by a handicapped owner. We now, by a car on Matanzas, speeding. We have a gentleman that played golf, active golfer, Stoney. He's handicapped, uses the street because we don't have sidewalks to walk or exercise. I'm petitioning and trying to get, as soon as we can, the proper documentation so we can get the speed bumps, whatever, on Matanzas. A lot of the people have left. I don't know if it has to be current owners that are there or what is going on. I know a lot was passed on Edgewater with people gone, so I'm just trying to get some safety measures.
Have you addressed that in the past, Michael?
Yeah. Right now, it's 65% of the people on the street must sign a petition for speed bumps. My personal opinion, I think it should be up to the district to make the decision if there should be speed bumps or not on it. We would get them done a lot quicker. It's very hard for the residents to go house to house to get it. I have speed bumps on Columbus. We had to go house to house to get a petition. It took us almost a year to get it. I really think it should be left up to the district to make decision if speed bumps are needed, and I think it would get them a lot quicker. Granada also, people on Granada will come up and say, you know, they're speeding, you know, there's 2 or 3 speed bumps. You know, maybe if we add them, it would slow it down. Absolutely. The speed bumps do slow people down. And on Matanzas, we absolutely need them there. I mean, you know, we can't control the speed. That will control the speed somewhat. So she's absolutely right.
I've actually talked with Road and Bridge, and we have, the district is one of the few places that has the ability to use the speed tables, not, you know, the smaller speed bumps, but the big speed tables. And I've gotten some information about it. We're looking into it in my conversations with the counties that it is, you know, it's up to us. We maintain our own streets, and so I think it is up to us to decide, you know, where we want to put them. What we're trying to do now is develop a policy as to how we let people petition, you know, to say this is, if we're going to have, it's going to be a certain number of residents per street, it's going to be a certain number of people for, you know, for a specific length. But we're trying to come up with a policy to, you know, so that it's not just, oh, I want one in front of my house, and, you know, well, that person got one in front of their house, and so now we can't put one for another 100 yards or, you know, the 200 yards, whatever the restrictions are. But we are looking into it.
Have we actually started that process? I mean, you're saying you're looking at it, but have we actually started a policy?
Yes, we have.
I've been talking with Tanya because Joan's one of them, and I'm sure the rest of you, I've had several talk to me in Granada, Sunrise, Matanzas. So I've been asking Tanya, and she's started the process of what it takes to get this done.
Okay, let me ask you. Michael, what do those roughly cost? The difference between the table and is it $3,000 and $5,000 or something like that?
About $3,000 a piece, right?
$3,000 a piece. Okay.
That's the small ones like
the
we
smaller
have.
ones, yeah.
The smaller ones, yeah.
But it does slow people down.
Well, maybe that's part of the answer to what Bill was saying in some of the areas. Maybe that's something that we should also be examining.
We can't do anything on Sun Lake Boulevard, but the rest of all the other residential areas, you know, based on my conversations with Road and Bridge, that authority is up to us, you know, as to where we put it.
Yeah,
you slow it down everywhere else, the sheriff can take care of Sun Lake Boulevard.
That's their jurisdiction.
But there are rules. It can't be too close to a corner, you know. So, I mean, we'd have to look into all that, but it can get done.
Yeah, I think it's important, but I also think that people might be concerned having a speed table or a speed bump, you know, right in front of their driveway, you know. I mean, there are a lot of things that one would have to look at.
There's rules where you can put them, or where you have to put them, you know.
Okay.
So we have to go by law there. But, I mean, you know, that's one way to slow people down.
Okay.
But Matanzas is a very dangerous street.
Well, I'm going to add,
very narrow.
the school bus at 740 the large FedEx truck. People have sworn that they're going 50, and that's in front of my house. And I don't care, put a table, put a bump, put a whatever. You can use my house, and of course we wouldn't do it in a driveway. They know how to do that. And my mailboxes were hit once by a gardener's trailer that was speeding and hit one of the little blue dots. So there is a reason to use these. And, you know, let's not have another Oreo killed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Larry Bertetto. An interesting comment about the salaries. Do you know what the city of Sebring pays their aldermen or supervisors? Nothing. Do you know what Avon Park pays? Nothing. They do it. They run for the office. There's no salary. Just thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you, Larry.
We have to give them 300.
Any other public comment? Yes, you can. Thank you. Can you just state your name for the record, please? Can you please state your
Myrna
name?
Dunn.
Thank
On
you.
Matanzas.
Thank you.
I have written a couple of emails to Tanya, and she's very good about replying. So anytime anybody needs any issue addressed, I'd say that's the way to go. She took care of the palm tree that was down on the Matanzas neighbors that do not live there, but just rent it out. But the highway, it becomes a highway at 3:30. The FedEx truck, the bus goes down at 50 miles an hour. It's horrendous. We can't walk on Matanzas. We have to walk fast to get to a space where we can walk without getting, in the middle of somebody's property. The sidewalks have never been addressed. They've been talked about. Nobody really wants them because they don't want them to go across their space. We just need something done because Matanzas is really the most populated in the district of any other street in our whole community. It's the most populated in the wintertime. And there's walkers, people with walkers, bikers, golfers. I mean, it's like a freeway. So please address this. Get the bumps if you have to. Spread them out. Get that school bus and the FedEx truck to slow down. And the cars that they don't want to go down Granada because that's so, they've got two bumps to deal with. So they cut through on Matanzas, which is the next street. Everybody knows this. Take care of it. We've been worried about it for a long time. Our neighbor is the one who lost the dog, David, a cute little thing. And this guy goes down the street and the dog, because he's handicapped, he has really no place to walk. And there's other people with this issue, so please address this. It's important. Safety is the main thing. And that's the big word today, safety in all areas of the schools, the streets, our kids, everybody. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Michael, can I ask you a question? They sell portable units.
Yes.
How expensive are those?
I think they're around $900 a piece.
Would that be as a stopgap is all I'm saying. Could we not get some of those, budget for some of those, put them out there in these areas that are plagued until we come up with a policy to put a permanent one in? That would slow them down, would it not?
Absolutely. I'm 100% behind that. I mean, I think that's a great start. As the FedEx truck, we've contacted them 2 or 3 times. We've also talked to the bus drivers in the area, but you gotta remember is they change staff and so, I mean, we have contacted some of these companies. FedEx was probably the most complaints, that I have, so.
Yeah, they typically have the same people run the routes, both FedEx, be it UPS, be it buses.
Yes, I never had a complaint about that.
FedEx is a resident.
No.
UPS.
UPS.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it's one of them, you're right, yeah. But I think that temporary speed bumps would be a great start, in a couple of areas, and try it.
It's not that much money, and it could really start to resolve a problem while we're trying to figure out a policy on this, because it's not permanent, we can move them, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
I would like to see that, maybe throw that in your budget. Yeah.
That's within your authority. If it's an emergency, why don't we do it?
We have a budget for that.
Yeah, I just don't know why we don't.
We don't have to wait till next year.
Yeah, just,
Do that now.
Why can't we just do it?
It'll get done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have some ideas.
No, we don't want 20 of them. We just need a couple to figure it out. Okay.
Yeah, I know exactly where I'm putting them.
Make sure you do Matanzas and Pebble Beach.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Jim?
Jim Jonas. I, too, am a resident on Matanzas. I live right at the stop sign, and I'm hoping what you're talking about will at least minimize the number of people who just blow through that stop sign every day. And some of the worst offenders are the golf carts. I think when they approach the stop sign, they speed up rather than slow down. And as far as I know, there hasn't been anybody run over there yet, but we live right at the stop sign, and so for us to leave our parking spot, we have to back out right near that stop sign, and we're looking every way 15 times to look for flying golf carts and FedEx trucks and what have you. So maybe a bigger stop sign would help. I don't know. Or put one down lower so the golf carts can see it. I don't know. Or put a sheriff's deputy there, and he could probably earn him his year's pay just issuing tickets. I don't know.
Yeah, probably right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Billy?
One quick comment, Bill Norcross, resident. I didn't know these people were coming up and talking about a traffic situation, which is really serious. And, you can't kick the can down the road too many more times before somebody really gets hurt. Now, we're not talking about somebody that's going 5 miles over the speed limit or kind of like rolls through a stop sign, but I'm talking about the real serious violators. We appreciate Mike Hurley's attention to this. He's hired a new supervisor or somebody from the hospital that has police experience. But seriously, $15,000 to me is a reasonable amount of money to have people, at least their car presence somewhere. Now, when you park 2 cars at the district office, why can't we park one on Sun Lake Boulevard and the other one in the district office? I mean, to have 2 cars there for hours, it's not right. I'm not picking on those people, but it just, they should be out in visibility in the neighborhoods. Thank you again.
Thanks, Bill. Okay. Any more public comment? Okay. I'd like to back up for a second because I don't know if anybody cares, but I do. During the staff reports, we didn't get a staff report from the golf. Do you have one, Ron?
I do.
Woo. Whoa. Oh, okay. Pretty explosive.
Not exactly sure what happened there.
Great entrance.
Okay, Ron Wonderling for the record. The report that I'd like to give is conversations we've had previously about the general manager search for the club. It's been about a week and a half since we had the last candidate through that met with each board member over a selection of days. Through that time, we've been doing some one-on-one further digging on the candidates. I asked each board member to kind of rank them, and it was pretty much across the board. There was not a clear favorite. Each of them come with different skill sets, different personalities, different experience in the past. So with that, we, as an organization, and obviously we're held accountable, we want to make sure we get it right. So we're taking just a little extra time with doing, I'm calling it homework assignments, questionnaire-based situational things with the candidates that are in the works. Based on those results, I feel by next week we'd probably have our recommended candidate that we'd go with. I'll communicate that to you. We all know it's a very important decision here, and we want to make sure we get it right and set clear expectations for the candidate, and they fully understand, the dynamics of this position and the inner workings of it. So they all come, like I said, with a different skill set, and there's all of them would probably do well. Some would take longer than others, but we want to make sure we get it right. So
it's going to be one of the three that we talked to?
Very possible, yes.
So
unless something comes through the works this week, we do get resumes each and every day, to be honest. But
so are you openly searching for another candidate while you're doing this? Whatever you do?
If resumes come in, we do look at them, and our Tom Riley, our recruitment person in Virginia, goes through them as well. But the ones that have come in don't have the skill set that would work.
Yeah. And I know you've been looking at quite a few, and it just seems it's taking a little bit longer, and I understand where we are situationally. Sure. We're in Central Florida here, and there's a lot of dynamics that go on. We had two candidates who were relatively close within 35, 40 minutes of here, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And credit to the on-site team here, Mike Lemire and Andy and Earl and Kevin and the rest of the management team there is doing a great job with this interim span. And it's credit to their skill set as well. So.
Yeah, I clearly appreciate you taking your time to make sure that in your mind and CASPA's mind that it's the right candidate. My concern a little bit is that none of these three jumped out as what you would say be the candidate I want, and so maybe, just maybe, I hate to delay anything, maybe you should be looking at additional candidates.
And we are. The ones that have come through, just for whatever reason, just don't have the skill set, or the experience. So
fair enough.
After Mark said that, do you want a consensus from the board whether you should pick one of those for the three, or?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Obviously.
Because the last thing I want is, I don't want this to go on any longer than what it has already.
And we don't. And here's the thing: we don't either. But we also don't want to make a haste decision that we miss something.
Or we just might make a mistake, but,
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I know one of the concerns was, how long is the person going to be here? Are they going to be here long term? We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. If they win the lottery or get hit by a bus, we can't control that. We just want to make the best educated decision on it. And also, we've dug, on anyone's resume, they put references. And, every time you call a reference, it usually checks out 99.9%. It's perfect unless the person didn't know they were being referred to. So we're digging deeper into people who've worked for that person, just to ensure that the right leadership qualities, anyone can write anything on a resume. So it's checking deeper into it.
I know I have your phone number and of course your email, so I know you're available via the phone and email. I'm not sure. At one point I thought you were going to be, and you might be, scheduled down here X amount of days a week. Does that schedule still hold true, and what are those days, or are they random?
It's been random, you know.
How would we know the days you're going to be here, so that if I have some questions where I want to sit a one-on-one instead of sending an email?
I can send you an email with the dates. I'll send it to Tanya to distribute.
No, I mean,
I could do that.
I don't know if the others have questions, so sometimes I do.
Yeah, it has been difficult. I guess things are running well, what you want, but it's difficult for us supervisors during these 2 months for the relationship that we have with the general manager.
Sure.
We don't have access, and I don't want to call you on the phone, and I want a general manager.
And we do too. So, I will say this, at any time you can call me, 7 days a week, whatever time, and I know many of you reached out through various subjects or comments or things that are happening at the club. So do not hesitate picking up the phone. But having someone in an office where you can stop in and not have to pick up the phone is needed, and we're not taking it lightly. It's not like we're putting it on the side and, hey, we'll deal with this tomorrow or the next day. It is in the forefront for us here. We just want to ensure that it's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, you're never going to find the perfect candidate because there aren't any perfect people. So I think what we have to do is pick the best available to us. And I don't mean to disparage Sebring, but I ran banks in small towns for a long time. And it's hard to find people that want to move to a small town that are capable of doing the job. So I think, excuse me, we got 3 pretty good candidates. And I think we'd probably be okay with any of them. I've personally had a favorite or two, but sooner or later we got to quit aiming. We got to pull the trigger.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the intent on our side from myself and my superiors is we'd like to get to the finish line next week, just through this last step.
I do have another question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, since you're sitting next to each other, maybe in conjunction, you guys can answer this. Great job, by the way, on the driving ranges. That's what I wanted to ask you. The back part there. I don't hit a long golf ball. I'm lucky if I hit a golf ball 150 yards, but there's a lot of guys that can hit it 250.
Sure.
Those mounds look great, and I know the intention is to put some kind of trees or shrubs on the top of them. However, the area in the maintenance facility has the bins. We talk about safety here all the time, in the workplace. They're right in the target zone. And if you move those tees on the driving range forward, you're hitting, I measured it the other day, from the back it's 260. Now I can't get there, but I know there's a lot of people that can hit it into those areas where they pick and sand and all of those things. What are our plans to either increase that mound or put some trees in there right away? Because I am concerned there's golf balls going in there. I go over there and I see them.
So as of yesterday, it was delivered. We had a nursery drop off, and I'm drawing a blank of the name of the plant material, but they're about 4.5 feet tall. They're down at maintenance now. Believe they're being installed today. I think they're starting today. That'll take the top of the berm. So we're going to add, call it 4 feet to the top. Mm-hmm. Those are going to grow upwards of, I think Earl said, about 15 feet, which will then, frame the driving range from a appearance standpoint, give protection because it's a thicker plant material, so the balls will be knocked down. Earl's done this at a previous facility, and the final look will be very appealing from appeal for a golfer standpoint, but then also from a safety standpoint. So right away, we're going to pick up 4.5 feet. Through the summer, they're going to grow anywhere from another foot and a half to 2 feet. They're a fast-growing plant material. So.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just see the people on the range, and they're pounding them in there.
Yeah.
So you probably could hit.
Yeah. The other option that we do have, and we have not went down this road, right, wrong, and different, is you could go to a limited flight ball to cut down, a percentage. But from a a golfer standpoint, you kind of, if you hit 100 yards, the range ball, you want to be equal to the golf. So I wouldn't, the range is big enough. We just need to, let that grow up and we'll be fine. So,
Thank you.
you bet.
I do have one question for you.
Sure.
Pertaining to all this with the trees and he's done some great things with the mulch that he's been buying to put around the trees on the course and then outlining it in with shells, I guess you call it. Is that what they call it?
The coquina, yes.
I just wondered, we have the money to pay for all this?
We do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
on your credit card.
It's on my credit
No.
Okay.
Well, I would like to chime in on that. If we're ever going to get to the point where we're better than Henry thinks we're a C+, I think we're headed there, and Earl's driving it, and really, he should be commended.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
I wholeheartedly agree.
I had another question, too. At the last meeting, if I remember right, you said there were 20% of the cart sheds that are actually leased. Is that a correct number?
Yeah, Andy you were gonna look into that with Andy.
Yes, I don't have that in front of me, but I'll get you that by the end of the day.
Before the next meeting, we really need to know that number because we're going to come up with a number on the cart sheds. We should know the usage so that we know whether we need them all or none of them before we decide to start putting roofs on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that, and then I'll also find out, and then we have a list of, because it's used for storage for the district, and we have such stuff we use storage for, so we'll count those as well, because if for whatever reason something happened, we have to, relocate things, so.
I got one more question for you. I know we're going to talk about the kitchen in a little while, but we still have to address the golf course, the irrigation system on Deer. You were going to do something last time.
Yeah, so at the next board meeting, there'll be a couple items that'll be on the agenda in regards to that. But regardless of that, we've already started the audit on it, just in preparation for it.
I know, but the board has to finalize the kitchen, what we're going to do with the kitchen and the irrigation, because that's such a big number. Even if you scale it down, it's still going to be a sizable number before we can do anything else.
Correct. Yeah, no, the project has to be, well, obviously we're going to discuss it here in a minute, so I'll kind of hold till we do that.
Do you have any financials at all?
I do. Pull them up real quick. Just give me 2 seconds on that.
Okay. Just give me a feel for where we're at, because I went online, I didn't see them, so.
Well, the financials were just received by the district on April 20th, which was last Friday, and Omar had finished his review yesterday or Wednesday on those, so I was going to send an email to you today or Monday, let you know that we do have the drafts of both the district and the golf finalized as of today. And then we can make those available for your review before the May 11th meeting.
Okay.
Whatever I could speak to it now, or you can. I mean, normal process.
Give us a 10,000-foot overview of it.
Okay. Yeah. Just take about 30 more seconds.
10,000.
Okay. 15,000.
15,000.
Okay. Supervisors, the golf financials. What about the district financials? They're both online. Okay.
The old ones are.
I'm talking about the March.
March 31st is online. I put them on there yesterday.
Okay.
Because I received them.
Oh, you put them on yesterday?
Mhm.
Okay.
What's online?
Shame on me, because I was trying
I
to
didn't realize they were
plan in
online.
advance
I'm
a couple
sorry.
days ago.
I didn't know they were online.
Oh, yeah?
Where are they?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
Okay, they're under staff reports.
Yeah,
So
no, but I didn't check it
Okay.
yesterday, so.
my apologies. I didn't know either. So.
Yeah. So from a year-to-date standpoint, we are, from a revenue perspective, we're $5,610 shy of our budget. So we're at just over $2.2 million. That's excluding any interruption from the Irma claim that may or may not, however that gets settled. From prior year, we're $57,000 more revenue than we were prior year. So, and then Our labor is $21,000 under plan. Obviously, some is from vacancy of positions and just efficiencies of the operation. From an expense standpoint, total expenses, currently we are $13,000 over on our expense line item. There's about, I think, Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, about $50-some thousand that we're going to get from Irma that will help correct that line item from all the things that we did during the storm that'll get reimbursed. Compared to prior year, we're about $6,000 over in expenses. As a whole, if you put it all together, we are off plan by $3,400 to be dead on budget. To prior year, we're $83,000 behind prior year's numbers, just based on various factors. So from a high level.
Okay. Thanks, Ron.
Yep.
Just on a 15,000 foot high perspective, can we get some information that we should be getting anyway as to exactly what our average outside rate winds up being? I know what the rack rate is, but I doubt seriously very many people are paying that.
So
I'm not asking for that in this meeting. I'm just saying
I can.
It would be good if we
Just as a comment, if you will. I had asked Jim specifically about that, and he gave me quite a few weekly printouts, and I was very pleasantly surprised by the number of people paying $58 to play golf here.
Well, I think that'd be great. I hear all the time, well, they got that rate, but nobody pays it. Well, I don't know, and I'm not too bright, but I don't like to appear stupider than I am. And when somebody says that to me, I'm standing there going, well, I don't know, So if you're going to sit on this board, you really ought to have enough information to look like you're halfway intelligent.
Yeah, no, that's an easy report to pull. So what we'll end up doing is pull our greens fees, just for the point of reference. They're broken out from a point of sale system, but for a reporting standpoint, it all goes into greens fees. Right. So we just need to pull out, we can pull out member guest fees from it, public, and then do the average based on the round. So it's not a difficult report to pull.
There's information, and then there's push-pull, I call it, information. If it lands in my inbox, I'm going to read it and I'm going to understand it. If it just happens to be floating out there somewhere on the website, that doesn't do me a whole lot of good.
Right. Yeah, we can, from that report, the more detailed, deeper report, we can include that in our, snapshot to you. That's easy. I'll do that going forward.
Thank you. Any additional questions? I guess we're on to our discussion on the workshop for the clubhouse kitchen expansion project.
Sure. So just a brief introduction. 4 of the 5, or actually 5 board members, have got to meet Tom. Mr. Brooks, sorry we didn't get the chance to connect yesterday. Tom is, for a point of record, he's our National Food and Beverage Director for our organization. And I'll pass the mic over to him for a second. I know that each of you had some time. 4 of the 5 had some one-on-one conversations with him yesterday. I sat through 2 of the meetings. Just to back up really quick, obviously a lot of work's been put into getting to the point we're at. I know Mr. Branson kind of ran point from a board standpoint, had a professional company kind of put the design together with the work of Kevin and the team. We got some preliminary numbers back through not only the architect, but also
Marble Construction
to give just a cost estimate of, hey, here's here's the plan, what is it going to cost? The number is, take all in, including, the revenue loss, we're shy of $1.4 million. It's 1.353. I think just from consensus, not voting on it by any means, but it is a high ticket price. From the last meeting, inviting Tom down, he spent a lot of time over the last week and a half working on some of this stuff, and then what are other options? We'll say Plan B or things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to him on kind of his viewpoint from what he's seen, and maybe I'll shed some additional light on the conversation as a whole, since they were individual conversations with you.
All right. Well, hello, everybody, and thanks again for your hospitality yesterday. And sorry I didn't get a chance to connect with you. I think we all agreed that something probably should be done, and obviously the price tag is a little staggering at first glance. So working with Kevin, not just the last week and a half, but over the last year or so, Kevin and I spent a lot of time together and have discussed this. I think we want to be careful that we don't appear to be in favor of one thing or another. It's your money. Obviously, we want to make recommendations based on what we know, and this is what we do for a living. But at the end of the day, this is your decision. So we just want to provide you with our viewpoint and just what we think. It's obvious that the current kitchen right now isn't adequate for what you're doing now in volume. So there's concerns that, and we've all had conversations. I think we're all on the same page. We know what the issues are. Safety is a big concern. Just talking with Kevin, when there's a big events going on, there's 200-300 members or residents in the building. You have line cooks, and you have servers using the same space. You have people cutting on small tables with knives, and you have servers running around with trays. And it's just not the way you should be doing things with our current situation. So as the community grows and more people are going to be using the clubhouse, it's only going to get worse as far as the situation back there is concerned. Kevin's one of our best chefs, and we have 150 golf clubs, and I'm not sure that a chef besides Kevin could be able to handle the environment that he's in the way he does, because he does a really good job pumping the food out. The cost of goods are always in line. I look at all the reports each month. Revenues are there, so people are using the club. They like the food, they like the experience. So that's so we're lucky to have Kevin. It's just the situation we're in back there is a little tough. It's not ideal by any means. Looking at the financials and the different reports that have come back, the one thing that jumped off the page to me right away was that 565 number. I think it was for the equipment. Without digging deep, that just seems kind of high to me compared to other kitchen projects we do throughout the company. Currently, we have 5 different kitchen remodels or new construction going on that I'm involved with, and that number just seems kind of high. So I think in talking to Ron, we think that it's almost hard to make a decision based on these numbers. It would be great to bid out the equipment, maybe 2 or 3 other companies. I know you need to do that as part of the process anyway, but I don't want to commit to anything, but I think that 565 number can be reduced, especially since we're going to be using some of the existing equipment that's already in the kitchen. Some of the priorities back there, if we had to start cutting different things, I think we definitely want to look at keeping the cooler, and I think Kevin would probably agree. I don't want to speak for him. He can certainly speak here in a minute as well. Right now, Kevin needs to get deliveries almost every day, Monday through Friday, because of the lack of storage space in the kitchen. So if we had that cooler, that would help with his ordering. Also save some money, because when you have multiple orders, you're not getting a break on volume as you would if you had 1 or 2 orders a week versus 5 or 4 or 5. So that's probably one of the most important things. And also, if you're going to do construction where that prep kitchen is towards the front of the drawing, I think you're all familiar with the drawing, you definitely want to put that hood in now versus later on. It would be much less expensive to do it at the forefront. You probably want to do the dishwashing area that's on the drawing now as well. That will save a lot more money by doing it on the front end versus going back and doing it. I think where the savings would be, should the board decide not to spend that top dollar figure, would be on the equipment itself, and maybe we do the shell and have that, and then kind of grow into the rest of the kitchen over the next couple, 2 or 3 years with the rest of the equipment. But make no mistake, it's a tight situation back there for the revenue you're doing, with the type of events you're doing, whether it be 100 golfers or outings, or the occasional banquet or wedding. It's kind of tight right there. On the drawing as well, there is a bridal suite. I think that number was $51,000. I think we all agree we're not really that we can cut that right away. There is a service bar in there that would be helpful, but we could probably do without. So there's $50,000 right there, because we don't do a whole lot of weddings. And there's a few other things, but at the end of the day, I think until we really go out to bid with the equipment, it's going to be hard for us to really know what that final numbers would be. But the 1.4, again, just looking at it, it seems very high to me, and I think we can do a lot better than that. What else? Did you want to say anything, Kevin? Do you have any thoughts, or?
I guess the one thing I want to point out is there's been a lot of conversation about the drawings with the banquet kitchen area, which really is an area where we would be plating up banquets. But one thing that I want to point out with that area, it's not just for banquets, for food preparation. I'm sure all the board members have been in the kitchen. You can see that front stainless steel table. That's our prep area, and it's also where the food comes out. A good scenario, and I mentioned to a couple board members yesterday, during season, when everybody's here, lunch starts right at 11 o'clock. It goes right through 3 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock, sunset dining starts. Now, at the same time that we're servicing the guests in the dining room, we're trying to get ready for the dinner crowd, the food preparation, everything else. We have no space to do that. Throughout my career as a manager, I was always taught your number one priority is to give your employees the tools to do their job. I can't do that because I don't have the tools to do my job. We work around it, but it's. I just wanted to point out the main thing that I'm saying is that banquet line is more of a preparation area than just a banquet section of the kitchen. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that might be one thing that got misconstrued throughout the process. We're not building 2 kitchens. We're not going to have kitchen A, kitchen B. This one's for a la carte. This one's for banquets. In the prep spaces where you can wash, you can chop, you can kind of be in a different part away from all the madness of the everyday business. So, and then during the day as well, that area, that call it that front area, the new area, would be the garde manger station as well. So all the salads, desserts, all that type of thing could come out from that part and pull it off the line. And the other thing right now too, and the dishwashing situation in the kitchen, in the current kitchen, is not ideal. You have the dishwasher next to the line, basically. So, typically you want to design it that way. You'd have the dishwashing away from the food that's being prepared. So that's another, okay, it's not, I don't want the wrong impression out there. It's not there is good sanitation in the kitchen, but if you can pull that dishwashing area away from the food preparation area, and the current plan that we all have, that's down the middle of the kitchen. There's a wall that separates that from the rest of the kitchen, so it kind of keeps that separate too. But again, that would be that front area, the prep area, not the bank. We'll call it the prep area from now on. Could be a station every day, and also have room for prep. Just cutting, dicing, and everything for banquets and everything else.
And just to kind of conclude a little bit before we come up back to the board to talk, I think we all agree it's needed. For us more than anything, safety is a big thing. The efficiency of the kitchen, planning this for the next, we'll call it 20 years. You'll have the space to do so. planning for the growth, I think our recommendation would be to finish I think the next step would be the design. I think we're in agreement with in terms of what it looks like and how it works inside that footprint with the little expansion into the loading dock. In order to get firm prices and to publicly bid it, like we're going to have to anyways, our recommendation is to finish the construction drawings. That goes out to bid. We'll call it the shell of the building. Then bid the equipment separate from the contractor. So then you get the proposals back. Then you'll have firm numbers of what it's exactly going to cost. From the shell standpoint, I'm not so sure, besides taking the bridal suite out, which is off to the right, or the service bar area that'll service that room, take that off from the equation, bid everything else, see what that comes back at. At the same time, we're bidding the hood vents, all the equipment, looking at the various option of new, used, and then we can value that at that time, and if we want to reduce stuff at that time, then we would have hard numbers to go off of. Because currently, arbitrarily trying to figure out if 700's a number or 900 or 1.1, we're kind of just pulling numbers. Obviously, we've used a professional, two companies, the construction company, they kind of give the thing, and they're going to go high. Tom's already kind of commented about the equipment. It seems pretty high, and they probably did it to not have to come back and say, hey, I missed it, or there's a bigger profit margin for them. We know we can save money on the equipment, so we bid it completely separate. You'll get more people to bid on the equipment than the construction end. So from our perspective, I think the next step, if you're happy with the design of the kitchen, the work that's been put in, obviously the price tag is hard to swallow, that would be our recommendation. So, but open it up back to the board for further discussion and comments and thoughts. And obviously, the only other comment that I would make is, this helps correct one facet of that F&B operation. We still have, from a spacing utilization standpoint on the other side, there are still concerns, and I know we've kind of briefly talked about them as well.
Good, Ray. I know you have a question or two.
I just want to make sure I understand the numbers that we have. I know.
Not sure.
Accurate, perhaps, but so I've got us at $1,045,000 to do everything but the bridal and the bar. Is that correct? Somewhere around that area? Is that the right number?
Okay. The quote that I have in front of me that was in the board pack, if we take the total number is $1.353,410.
Yeah, but that's not a number. I mean, that includes construction costs, that includes contingencies, that includes loss of revenue.
So if you take out
the actual construction.
Okay, so if you just include the construction cost, just construction is $1,035,000. Okay.
$1,035,000?
Yes, $1,035,000 just construction. Now you have to. Yes, you do. You would have to add in Cliff Schultz's construction cost, which is 8%, for him to manage the project, which comes out to the difference between what has already been paid to him and to what that 8% comes out to $53,315. So the total
is the balance.
Correct. The total is $1,088,000, just for whole numbers.
So but the actual. I mean, I got a piece of paper that says it's 104.5 that you guys gave me, so I don't know where I'm getting these numbers. Right?
Okay.
Construction.
So, Mr. Brooks.
Phase 1, phase total, 104.5. I assume that's, you want to say 103.5?
So just, so construction costs using the project manager, the architect who did the thing, we're at $1,088,000 is what I have from the board pack. If we remove the bridal suite of $51,482, the service bar bridal suite, the total with the equipment and everything that's been already quoted, is $1,037,000. But before it's even publicly bid.
I guess the number I'm trying to get to is if the bids came through with what we know today at the same numbers, how much are we financing? That's all I'm trying to really figure out.
I'd have to defer back to Omar and
Are we
Tanya.
financing 103.5, or are we financing a different number?
The financing option that we presented at the last meeting was if we were to do the kitchen renovations and the Deer Run irrigation. So that was an option of financing if we were to do both projects. I'm not necessarily saying that we would finance this project individually.
Well,
Wouldn't.
huh?
I mean, we would pay cash. I mean, that's...
I think a $1.7
You're-
million, I mean, it's a different discussion, but $1.7 million on Deer Run is probably a non-starter for the next, pick a number of years. That's probably in the 6, 7, 8 year range. We're looking, or at least from my standpoint, I'd be looking more at $250 to do one greens loop, which is what Earl said at the last meeting, per year. So we're talking
You
just
can-
plus a.
You can lump them together. I don't care how we do this, but I want to know what it's going to cost, what the kitchen is.
We won't know the cost until we
I
do what
understand, but
Ron,
based on the
Ron
numbers
said.
we
Yeah.
have, I'm just trying to make sure the math is right. It's 103.5. That's what you're telling me to do the kitchen.
Yeah, 1037 to do the kitchen as it stands, right
We
now.
would have to finance 103.7 if we were doing it by itself, right?
Would we have to finance? Is that the question? We
would
don't have
come up with 103.7, whether it's cash, financing,
Yes,
whatever.
correct.
That's the only number I want. Okay. And that includes Cliff Schultz, taking care of him?
Correct.
And that includes the contingency?
It does not.
No. It does not.
So as long, the whole thing with contingency, as long, from an architect standpoint, fine tooth comb, making sure the outlets are where they're supposed to be for the equipment,
So it doesn't include contingency, and it doesn't include the estimated loss of revenue.
Correct.
So for 103.7, we get it all. Okay. And if we put this out for bid, so I understand this, don't we have to do a budget? I mean, what do we put in the budget?
So,
I'm all confused. If we put this out for bid, and we get back estimates, aren't we going to be after the budget process? Or?
Well,
To award the bid and to award the equipment, you have to have budget.
I'm sorry?
You need budget for the project already budgeted by the time you award it. All we're asking today is to continue the process, put out the bids for construction, and put out the bids for the equipment separately. But to award the project, once everything is in, we go through the process, we got to have budget to award it. Absolutely.
So no matter how it's going to be $1 million.
Well, not necessarily.
Depending on the equipment, as we mentioned.
I'm trying to figure out if I want to go for this or not.
No, absolutely. I mean, from an equipment standpoint, I hate doing hypotheticals, but let's say there's 5 or 10% to pick up on the equipment. There's $50,000 that we may be able. So now you're at, $950. The construction aspect, we may find that the construction cost is 5 or 10% high from, and so now you're at possibly 9 or a little bit
You
less.
would basically budget it. What we know today is this number if you wanted to go forward.
From a budgetary standpoint, for a placeholder, my humble recommendation is use the numbers that have been put forth by the companies, knowing that it's most likely going to come. We know from an equipment standpoint, we'll say value engineering it a little bit, it's going to come under. On the construction end, we may find that it comes, I would venture to say it's going to be that number or less once it gets publicly bid by, the different various contractors that'll bid on it for here. I know when we did the clubhouse back in, started in I think 2007 or 8 when it started, there was a handful of people that put in to do that job. So,
Is there a way to do this in segments? We have to do it all at once, or is there a way to do it a little at a time?
So I think from a shell standpoint, meaning the construction, you have to, our recommendation, do it all at once, the construction aspect. Now from the equipment, there's probably some pieces that may, based on what they come back at, that could be discussed on, I'm not going to pick on pizzas, but let's just say the pizzas ovens, we decide not to do that and go without a year for pizzas.
Is there a pizza oven in this plan?
Yeah. There's an oven that can do the pizzas.
Wow, that changes.
That's one example. So
I'm not trying to bust your chops.
Oh no,
I'm just telling you.
Great questions.
If I had my way to do it, I'd give you a number and tell you go figure it out. But you wouldn't like the number I give you.
No, well, exactly. The only thing is, because of how it all works to run an efficient restaurant, if you're missing, it's like a car. I mean, if you don't have the right size tire on a car, it's not going to operate properly. Can you get to point A to point B? Yeah, possible, but there's going to be some, swerves in the road. We just want to make sure that we meet the expectation of the board, of the residents of the community, and also the members day in and day out. And I know that, there's a percentage of time we do, and there's a percentage of time that we fall short, not from a lack of effort in most cases, but just from the tools, like Kevin mentioned, that we currently have. I mean,
So run me through the process again. They put out, if you put out the bids and the numbers come back, then what are we going to do? We're going to decide if we want to do it? Or we're going through this whole thing again?
Well, that's part of, based on my understanding, part of the issue is we don't have construction drawings. And so in order to, I think that's one of the decisions that we're asking to make today, is that we say the design, as it's designed, we don't have, aside from the removal of the bridal suite and that bar, there's no significant changes that need to be made, so we can direct the architect to come up with construction drawings so that we can actually put the project out for bid. Right. And then when the project comes back, when it's put out for bid, the part A is the construction of the building, part B is the equipment. Mm-hmm. Two separate bids, two separate RFPs. And then we'll get back those numbers that we come back with. We can decide, well, we're okay with this number that's come back on the construction side, but this equipment side is way too high, and we're going to have to make some cutbacks as to what equipment we're going to actually purchase to put in it. What do we need? What do we have to have in order to make this a functional restaurant? But the next step is the construction drawings. We can't bid without them.
I thought the estimated construction was $500,000-$600,000.
It is.
Well, what's the $1,037,000?
That includes the equipment.
Yeah, but we don't want to look at that.
That was that's all
I thought we were just going to look at the construction cost.
Marmor Construction did a valuation, schedule of values, and in the schedule of values, they included the construction cost and all the equipment cost. The equipment inside of that was $565,000. So in the bid process, the architect is going to produce the construction drawings, and we're going to put out for bid the construction and the kitchen equipment. And then we have the ability to look at that and decide what we're going to honor inside that bid package.
Okay. It just doesn't seem like we're doing what we thought we were going to do. We were going to look at the construction costs. We're throwing in the equipment. This isn't a...
Well, you got two issues. One, you got to put a number in the budget.
Yep.
So that if all this stuff comes back within that shell, this board is willing to vote for that. Okay. Then secondly, you're going to put all this stuff out for bid. But it seems to me that there's an analogy here that we're missing, and Ron's talking about building the engine. Well, it looks to me like we're designing the engine, but we don't have the car designed yet. So we're sitting here designing an engine that'll fit in the Cadillac, and we got a Volkswagen. We got to address the bigger issue is, what do we want to look like when we grow up?
Correct.
We got a kitchen. Kevin's operating in a kitchen that was designed not to be what he's using it for.
That's correct.
That's not criticism. I don't know how the heck you do what you do, to be honest with you. it was designed to be a catering kitchen, and we're running a first-class restaurant, probably the best restaurant in town, or at least one of the best two. Maybe Chicane's is better, I don't know.
I would disagree.
I don't think so. But, honestly, I don't know how you do what you do, but if we got the dining room, call it a banquet room if you want to, but to me it's a dining room closed, then we got people sitting in the bar trying to have a first class meal, that makes no sense to me. So if we're talking about spending $1 million on the kitchen, we're talking about a lot more than that. We're talking about spending another $1 million building a bigger dining room. And if that's where we want to go, that's fine, but that's a 5-year term, and we're sitting here, we're building the engine to see where we're going to be down the road. I think no question we need to do this jail that's long-term, but we got to figure out some way that we can get this to a reasonable number so we can then figure out what we want to be when we grow up again and go from there.
Yeah, and part of that, getting that construction cost is key, because then there'll be leftover, if that's X amount of dollars, then we'll know how much money we have to spend on the equipment. And we can, I won't say back into the number, but maybe we don't buy everything the first time. Maybe it's a CapEx the next year, then the year after that, so we don't go over what you all agree to as that final number. Just to address the other issue, a lot of times in the ideal situation in a clubhouse is you have a bar area, you have a restaurant area, you have a separate banquet area. And in this clubhouse, everything's sort of merged into one. So, you have respectfully sweaty golfers drinking beer, having a good old grand time at the club like they should, but sometimes families don't enjoy that with grandkids and that type of thing. So, part of this whole thing too, as we look at the kitchen and what the community wants to be when it grows up, and as it continues to add homes and whatnot, is it'd be good, again, from an outsider looking in, to kind of have separate areas for these different types of situations. And I think that, designing this kitchen kind of goes along with that theming for down the road. But you don't, it's hard when you have, again, not just any club. If you have golfers and you have 100 of them together and they're with their buddies, I don't know if I want to bring my kids and have a dinner next to them. So I think that's something to keep in mind as we look at the kitchen. How will that serve maybe future plans of having a separate restaurant space or a more defined restaurant space that's different from the bar and then different from the banquet space down the road too, if that's even important to you, the banquet space.
I'd like to comment.
I was going to, go ahead.
I wholeheartedly agree with what you just said and what Dan said. In the past, I've asked the question. I understand about the safety. I understand about the constraints that Kevin is working within, okay? What has not yet been totally defined, I have never seen a document, I've never seen anybody say to me, what do we want to be when we grow up? There's been stuff tossed back and forth. We know, or I should say we know, but there's a belief that there is no ROI on this, and we've kind of accepted that fact, okay? So now we want to make an investment. So we're making an investment, what we believe is in the community, but we also, I believe, is you need to market that Island View restaurant. Now, what's that bring? It brings a lot of aggravation to the golfers, okay, because now they're going to say, well, wait a minute, I won't have access to the restaurant and all of the things that I like. And we haven't defined any of that yet. You talk about varied menus. I don't understand why we can't have somewhat varied menus today, okay? We talk about, yesterday in the meeting, and Kevin was a valid point. Kevin said to me, well, I said, maybe we should be looking at longer hours. And he said, well, you know what it's like there at 7 o'clock, the place is empty. To use his analogy, it's like a bowling alley. Yeah, because we don't bring anybody in because they're tired of seeing the same things over and over. And here again, this is not, please don't take this personally, but you can only eat so much chicken schnitzel. Now, he's limited to what he can cook, okay? But we don't even advertise to the outside. So do we want to advertise to the outside, bring in people such as they do go into the Spring Lakes, such as they go to, Country Club of Sebring, which is essentially shut down, do we want to offer, what attracts people to these other restaurants? You know, why do people go across the street to the Wild Turkey, or why do they go down to Cody's, or well, they give them offers. They do, yes, we do the early bird special at 4 o'clock. Then we can't turn the tables because we're not here long enough to turn the tables. So we do our kitchen or our main menu at 6 o'clock. And 7 o'clock, people are saying, okay, I have to leave because the doors are closed. Why don't we do theme nights? Why don't we do maybe once in a while a drink special, 2 for $1 or something, like 90% of the people around here? That's why people go outside. But we could attract a lot of people into Sun and Lake because it is a great place. And we just don't do that. What we're doing right now is looking to put a kitchen together, spend $1.3 million, and what are we accomplishing other than giving him the safety aspect, which is important? But what are we really accomplishing here?
Well, like Mr. Siegel just mentioned, you know, we're not correcting all the problems in the F&B operation. Okay, so some of it's operation. So 2 for $1 drinks and stuff we can talk about during, you know, workshops, and that has nothing to do with obviously a kitchen. That's an operational decision that we can discuss.
But it's a way of bringing people into the restaurant. They'll come in, they'll drink, they'll order food. I don't think they're going to just come in to get a 2 for $1 beer or something of that nature.
There's many different options to bring people into a restaurant, and the hours of operation, specials, drink specials, food specials, absolutely, and we can definitely talk through those. You know, going back to part of it is the environment, like Tom was mentioning. You know, we use that space for multiple things, and consistency is a big part. Knowing that, I know next month we have three dates that the restaurant is going to be closed because of tournament functions or outside functions that have rented the entire facility. You know, there's one side of the story that's good. It brings additional revenue to the club, which is essence the community, but it has an impact on the members. Ideally, you have a restaurant like many clubs where that never closes. That is always open for the members and residents, but we don't.
But we're not there yet.
Correct.
We're not even close to that.
I agree.
And all I'm looking at is we had 3 functions this past month. And like you said, revenue is really good. I like the idea of bringing the revenue. We have 3 closures next month, okay? And it has nothing to do with the fact that we don't have a kitchen to serve these people because they're booking the place, okay? And I'm just trying to figure out what the big plan is. And if it's a 5-year plan, then we should be looking at it as a 5-year plan. If they're looking to expand the restaurant seating area, then we need to be looking at that in the 5-year plan along with $1.3 million budget for the kitchen.
Exactly.
You're wholeheartedly right, because there's 2 parts, like I said. Any expansion that may or may not happen to the clubhouse could have a direct impact on that, on the kitchen. So, having a designer look at it now of what you want to be in 5 years or 10 doesn't mean you have to do it. It could be phase 1 or phase 2, or you look at it and say, let's find a way to do it all at once. A designer could look at it and say, hey, do a banquet facility or an expansion not attached to the building, adjacent to the building, and use the kitchen to service it. There's many different viewpoints and options. The good part is you do have space around the clubhouse. You have great viewpoints. We know the demand for the facility is there. Could be enhanced more by doing different things to bring more people in. But I agree wholeheartedly. There needs to be a longer-term vision.
And you're going right back to my point. We don't know what we want this club to be. We don't know if we want it just for memberships in the community or if we want to make it something that can generate revenue from the outside. We don't even know that yet.
And obviously, we had Henry Delosier, come through, do a strategic study. I think that was part of getting the plan going. But from a board standpoint, that's some direction. We're here to give advice and thoughts and comments and industry of what we're seeing, of where clubs are spending their capital money. But I think that's a great question, and I think that's something that we should dig deeper on, of what does the board and the community want to be in 5 years?
Well, there's a second question, and that is there's, I believe, 2 hotels that are coming to the area. I don't know if either. I've heard both are going to have banquet facilities. So one of the reasons, other than the fact that our food is excellent, that we get banquet facilities is nobody else doing it. I mean, we basically have a monopoly, if you will. I don't think we're going to have that very much longer, unless you want to go all the way out to the racetrack. I mean, they have a pretty nice place.
Correct.
But, if we build, I'm not sure I'm ready to sign up for a Field of Dreams, that if we build it, they'll come. Although I do think that it makes a lot of sense to expand the dining room, if you will, banquet room, whatever you want to call it. That makes our bar too big. So, I mean, we're kind of stuck with what we got, and we got to figure out how to make it better than it is. But to the same token, I think we got to figure out, and maybe this is Delosier, what do we want to be, and how do we want to get there? I guess is the best question.
Henry don't know that.
That's true, but he should be here helping us figure out what the long-term strategic plan is.
Yeah.
If we don't decide this, and we don't have a strategic plan.
But the problem, Ron, is that the 5-year plan changes every year. Every year we have an election.
Correct.
And that's what I'm perplexed about. I mean, I don't know how any of us can say we have our own personal beliefs on what we want, but they're certainly different. And it's just, I don't know how you can go out like 5 years. I mean, we can make a proposal of what we want, but that certainly can change. If he doesn't run next year or doesn't get elected, it could change the whole face of the board.
But I don't believe that a plan of what the community wants to be will change as the board changes. The community dictates what they want to be. And if a plan is put in place that says, this is what we want to be as a community, then that's going to carry on from board to board. When the board changes, it might be a little different about what amenities do we add into some of these. But the major plan is going to be focused on what the community wants and needs.
Should be.
That's what I'm believing.
Okay.
It certainly should be. But we haven't asked the community, do you want us to spend $1.3 million on a kitchen? I can guarantee you the answer is going to come back no. But now that's, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying that if you look at what we're going to accomplish if we do this, in terms of it's going to cost the residents of Sun and Lake more money and not generate more income, I mean, logically that doesn't make sense, and it makes sense that they would say no. I mean, it's an amenity that, are we going to pay for it or not? I mean, I guess that's the real question. Exactly as you said, there is no ROI on this deal. The only ROI comes is if you then look at expanding the facility so that you put more people in there and you have the demand then to sell more food.
We can just blow the whole thing up and build a new building.
Well, that's about what needs to happen.
Money pretty soon.
Exactly. It was designed wrong, it was built wrong, and
how much would it cost?
We're dealing with it now. Well, I think this one cost, what, 2.7 when it was built?
It was 3.6.
I think it was 3.7.
Okay, a couple of points, and not necessarily in the order that they've come up, but budgets, especially beyond next year will always be dynamic. So to think that we're going to put a 5-year plan in place and then peg it exactly 5 years out that's not what we're trying to accomplish. Granted, the board membership could change and the priorities could change with that, but that's why it's dynamic. That's why you can change it. So I don't see that as a concern. Relative to ending up with no customers at 7 o'clock, if I want to go out and eat somewhere else, I don't go to 7 o'clock because I know I can get a seat 90% of the time by waiting that long. It's kind of the nature of our beast. The people here are early eaters, and early bird take advantage of people, and the only exception to that I've run into consistently is Cody's. Cody's seems to stay busy longer, but if I want to go to the Blue Lagoon or Wild Turkey or whatever, 7 o'clock I can walk in and take any table I want. Last night at 6:15 there were 1 table available in the Blue Lagoon. At 7:30 there were 15. So getting more people in there is fine, and it's an incentive to do something. Trying to convince ourselves they're going to be there at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock is probably not going to happen. Relative to the kitchen itself, we all agree that it's inadequate, it's potentially unsafe, it's difficult to do things by the book because of the way it's been designed. And while we will not be in a position anytime in the foreseeable future to spend $1.5 million, we can't make it any better without creating square footage, without giving Kevin more area to spread out into. So the conversation we had at the last meeting about looking at the construction piece of the project and adding the square footage, and maybe with some new input, putting in some select pieces of equipment because it makes economic sense to do it during construction rather than after, would allow us to do things dramatically different in the kitchen than the way we're doing them today. And that's without spending any of that $550,000 or whatever the end number is that we looked at. Hopefully the construction would include the cooler space that Kevin needs. But I think that, number one, we should be looking very hard and very diligently at that piece. And then what we do beyond that, it's going to be very, very discretionary. It's going to be based on what else happens in the district, what consumes funds, what our debt situation is, a lot of different pieces. So that's my opinion. I think we need to find a way to create the space and to put the minimal logical pieces of equipment in place that will allow Kevin to expand his operation and make it better without all that equipment expenditure. The equipment expenditure will probably come in pieces, but the timing of all that could be very much up to this board, and as Kevin designates a need, we can address a piece of equipment. We can decide whether we want to buy a lower grade piece of equipment because it's not mechanical. I mean, I don't know what all the options are when you buy equipment, but I'm sure there are a lot of them, just like there are when you buy a car. So, I think the focus needs to be on that, on the creation of the space, and that would be the only budgetary thing that I would expect to put into the budget for next year, would be that piece of it. So
I'd be willing to sign up for that piece right now. I don't have an issue with that. I don't think it makes sense to build the square footage without some budget. I mean, we have to budget something for equipment, but...
And that's fine. You can't practically build some of the square footage, though. That's the problem.
No, I totally agree.
I know you do. I know you do.
And that's the reason why we'd like to bid it 2 different ways, because,
Kevin,
that makes the most sense.
understanding, I know what you want, I'm looking at it. If we just, to Joe's point, if we just gave you everything, the shell, or the expansion, if you would, without necessarily doing the equipment, what kind of position does that put you in as far as what you want to accomplish?
Well, it certainly helps, with the third cooler and the area for preparation, even though there's no equipment there, it still gives me more room to operate, which we don't have.
So you'd have the room. Does it eliminate the concerns for safety?
Oh, absolutely. As long as the dish area is in there and the empty space where the prep banquet kitchen would be, which is the majority of costs.
Stop saying banquet kitchen.
We don't have banquets.
So if we just gave you the shell, or shell's not the proper word, if we just did the expansion of the building.
There's some pieces of equipment that are going to be essential. You would really need to do the dishwashing area no matter what. So, I mean, I think that's what we need from you guys, is to give us a number of what you think that might look like so that we can then put that in the budget, because that's what we're talking about right now. And because we won't know what it's going to cost until you get your bids back.
Yeah, ultimately you want to get to this list, this number here. I understand. But
Right. So
it's too much.
So how we would bid it out, bid the equipment itemized, so then you have the totals, and then from that standpoint, let's say the number's $400,000 for the equipment, and the board decides you only have $200 to work with, we'd have the numbers to purchase because it was already
But we
publicly
need to know
bid.
what's essential to Kevin. I mean,
Correct.
It doesn't make sense for us to say, okay, we're going to build this thing, we're not going to put any more equipment in. It's got to be some number that makes sense from a day one opening again.
So
At least it does. That makes sense to me. I don't think you could not do the cleaning area. There's stuff you got to do, and there's stuff you would like to do. I'd like to know what the stuff you got to do is, and what an estimate of what that costs, because we can take that and then add it to the construction cost. That gives us a number for budget. Budget is different than actual.
I mean, this list I know is available of all the equipment, right? So all you got to do is like highlight, 22 pages, highlight those items that are a must if we did the expansion.
But pretty quickly, you're going to have to expand the footprint beyond the kitchen.
I just say everything on that list is things that we've identified that we need. It'd be
All 22 pages?
It'd be a matter of, we only have X amount of money, so where do we start cutting? So maybe we take the cooler out, maybe we do this, maybe we do that. Like the tilt skillet, for example, Kevin already took out. That was an $18,000 piece of equipment. So, you can look at it that way, like this is what we really want, and here's the number, or else here's the number, figure out what you really want from what you have left over from the construction cost. So, I mean, we can get bids, and we can get bids next week. And
I want to know the minimum that he can get by with if we give him the shell.
Okay.
We're not. I got to tell you, otherwise he ain't going to get it. I mean, my opinion.
Okay. Well, it's good to know, because for him to have that prep kitchen, those pieces of equipment are things that are necessary for a prep kitchen. So that's what I mean. Where it's kind of like just if you look at it, you have this much money to spend. What's most important to you versus what do you want to have that you need to have? It's tougher to do it that way than it is to back into a number that's approved after the construction bids come back.
I mean, you want to give him a number?
Tanya, can we do the shell while they're getting these other figures ready? Or do we need a total amount?
We don't have construction drawings, so we can't bid.
I totally agree with Ray. I mean, I want to build the building.
My recommendation would be to instruct the architect to move forward with the construction drawings. It's going to take him at least 2 months to even get us on the schedule before they can start the construction drawings. Okay, so that would be my recommendation from that standpoint. As far as the kitchen equipment, we can do it one of two ways. We can ask him to go ahead and prepare a bid for the kitchen equipment that we have listed minus the equipment that you've taken out, and then we can see what the total cost is. So if it's $400,000, our budget is only $100,000, we will not award the entire bid package as far as the equipment goes. Or we can hire, are we going to have to hire someone to help us with the cost? I don't know that C.J. Fishman will give us a detailed cost of every single.
I would prefer personally that what you put out for bids is the construction itself.
Yes.
And he absolutely shouldn't live without pieces of equipment, i.e. coolers, the hood and the dishwasher area. I mean, those are things that we all agree are very, very important, and it doesn't make sense to do them after the construction is done.
Right.
So, to me, what we should bid is the actual construction and the have-to-have pieces of equipment, have-to-have for financial reasons or have-to-have for functional reasons, I don't care which. And that's the number that we really need to know before we can say, yeah, this makes sense, and we're preparing ourselves for any additional equipment we may need in the next 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, I think what we would do, the way I would approach it, the way we do it at the other projects, is take that list that you have, get everything itemized, so, I mean, everything, and then we start pulling away based on numbers.
No.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise,
I want to know what he has to have.
Right.
Period. It's the only one I want. I want to see, I need these 10 items. It's going to cost us $50,000. But then I can take that.
That doesn't have any prices on there, though.
And I can say, okay, we've got $500,000 we're expecting on construction. We got $50,000 that we have to have in equipment, so we know that we're going to work with $550,000. I'm just using numbers.
Right, sure. But
I know he wants everything, and that's fine. But
no, but I'm not saying we're going to get everything. I'm saying we need to quote everything on the bids, so then we can see what, from that, how much everything costs. Because right now, that doesn't have any prices on it.
You guys can go ahead and do that, but I want from you guys what it is.
Right. Absolutely. So it's not any different than getting the bids. It's the same process. It's just we're including everything that then we can pull away so we know what it costs. Because right now we don't know what those things cost based on that piece of paper you have.
Right.
It's not itemized.
We have two situations. One is we have to budget a number.
Right.
The actual number may be very different, but I don't think you're going to get $1.3 million put in the budget.
No, that's apparent.
So what we need to know is,
but if
what
we're
number do
just
we
pick
put in?
5 pieces of equipment instead of 30 pieces, I mean, if we had the numbers for everything, then we know what everything costs, and then we can. Kevin's like, I really need this, but I don't need this. Scratch.
I don't know what the time frame is to get all that back. That's
I can
basically
get. I mean,
what I'm saying.
if it's just equipment, I didn't mean to cut you off. I beg your pardon. If it's just equipment, if I take that piece of paper that has the 20 pages of equipment, I can get a bid back in like 5 days. Now, that doesn't include the drawings from,
Sure, it's good.
That's the difference in construction. If it's just the equipment, that it's quick. We have our national partners that will do that in a heartbeat.
And that's well worth doing, and I would do that regardless of anything else. That'd be great information for us.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I said everything. That way we know what we're dealing with. And then we use, 3 different companies, plus I think you have a local company here as well, but 3 national partners that are, big. They do hotels, resorts, whatever. We use a company called Acme, Singer, and then Edward Don is a big one down here as well. So, but yeah, that turnaround time is, like I said, maybe a week.
So your list will say that the total is going to be somewhere around 565, if we're assuming that's ballpark.
If we take that bid, exactly, and give it to them and say, we bid this out, same pieces of equipment, we think that it will be less than 565, just by looking at it, not having concrete, but just our best guess. I mean, again, we're doing 5 kitchens right now, and this is the most expensive equipment package that I've seen of the 5 projects we have going on right now, and it's a smaller footprint than what we're doing other places. So that's what makes me think that 565 might be a little bit high. So it'd be good to see how they got to that number, and maybe that is a number, but just looking at it, it appears high at first glance.
But we're also thinking that the balance, which is for the construction of whatever we're doing, expansion, that might be a little high too, possibly. Who knows?
Until the construction drawings are done, and it goes out for public bid, then you'll have a firm number to award, or...
Can we do, go and put it out for bid, even though it's not going to be done till midsummer?
I need to instruct the architect to go ahead and put us on the schedule to draw up the construction drawings. What he's telling me is it'll be 2 months before those drawings can even start. So I need to give him a yes or no, do we move forward with construction drawings or not? And that's where I'm, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
That's an expenditure. That's why we're talking about this today, because once we tell the architect to move forward with construction drawings, that bumps him to another pay scale. He's going to get, we're going to owe him more money once we instruct him to do that and he produces those drawings. We cannot get a bid, we cannot get a reliable bid until we have the drawing.
But the most we're going to pay him is about $82,000 if we were to do it the way it is, right?
If we do it.
And we've already paid him $30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we know what we're working with there. The most it's going to cost us is another $50,000.
Tanya, maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. So if we move forward and we say we want construction drawings and they say, okay, we can't do anything for the start until 2 more months, there's been a lot of discussion, at least between you and I, about whether or not those restrooms would be part of the build-out. So that type of information would have to be brought forward for the drawings. Would it not say we're taking out or we're leaving in?
Well, the architects are not recommending removing them. So I found out they were not requirement of the building code, but they are not recommending to remove those. So I'm in no position to recommend, to take them out or not, unless there is another need for that space. And that's certainly something we can discuss. But those restrooms as designed are in there currently, and that's how I'd recommend to move forward with the construction drawings. They're going to leave the restrooms as is.
Okay, so that doesn't buy us the extra square footage by taking those out.
This is based on what they say.
Okay. I mean, there's an investment in those 2 facilities there, so I mean, I'm not...
Oh, are you saying, can we work in the space if we took the restrooms out?
Well, I'm saying, yeah, I
They've
mean...
determined no. They've determined
They said no?
Yes.
It's because it's more advantageous to take the building out, put a roof on, build a new wall.
Okay.
Of course they said no.
The restrooms being there or not being there don't affect the size of the addition to the building.
No, but
It was a question of whether we needed the additional space to do what we want to do. But there again, that's probably something that could be dealt with down the road if the situation changes. We're going to create a lot of square footage and we're not going to fill it up. We'll have a lot of room to put additional equipment and grow into without touching those restrooms at this point in time.
Right, and the other thing to consider, right now it's not required, but if you did down the road expand the building,
then
the requirement to have a bathroom will most likely be there, and then you'd be putting another set of bathrooms in because the code will require it to be there. So, obviously using the architect and their professional recommendation, they felt leaving the bathrooms in is the right thing to do.
I would agree with that.
And my comment was only long as we let them know when they're doing the drawings that it's the existing drawings laid out the way it is now, that layout is what you're saying.
And removing the service bar in the vinyl area.
And removing the service bar. And then we'd have no service bar over there, though.
Correct.
So we take out the bridal thing, suite, whatever we want to call that, and the service bar, that bump out. We're removing that because that was a $51,000 expenditure. Now inside the dining room / banquet room, we're removing that mini service bar. Correct? So now we're going to force people back into the main room for drinks.
I thought we had that worked out.
No, we can do a portable setup, on the floor for a bar.
I don't understand.
Would be the option. A bank, that.
Okay, so you're going to just do a portable. That's fine.
That's what would have to happen.
Because I didn't ask the question, Michael.
Okay. Well,
that's just not a big deal.
This is something that we've talked about, stuff like this. That was a reason to take that out, would be that portable bar. A long time ago.
We certainly could leave it in the construction drawings and just have them bid it separately if you want to do that. That's an option.
Okay.
I was just asking how we're going to handle it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and Ron recommended a temporary
Before we
service bar.
decide finally, do we want to ever decide what we want this place to be? Somebody's got to make a decision. Or do you want to kick it down the road, or you want us to decide?
Hey, I brought it
Yeah, I'm
up
asking.
at the beginning of this conversation. It doesn't seem like anybody wants to go down that path, so I'm only one person. So let the other four figure out the marketing plan of what they want for this future of the community.
I think we have to give him direction if we're not in agreement, or if it's not been decided on what we're going to be, don't you think?
Make a proposal.
Well, I'm not prepared today to make a proposal. I have to think a little bit about it. But we got it. Somebody's got to decide what we're going to stand for. To Dan's point, and it's got to be the current board. You can't say somebody's going to be on the board next year and you're off, or you can't wait to get. The board's got to do it.
Well, if we're talking long-term strategic planning, there's no question that we have to address that issue.
Yeah.
And we have to address it in terms of how do we actually become, if we want to be a first-class facility, it doesn't include sitting people in the bar next to guys that just came in playing golf to have
There's
dinner.
a lot of issues.
There's issues there, and I think that's a whole nother conversation.
I'm just saying it's got to be us.
It's got to be done.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's an issue. So in order to resolve the issue, you have to have a plan. In order to have a plan for the building, just like we had an issue with the kitchen, is getting an architect to, hey, we'd like to have this, this, and this, and then do a plan, and then from that standpoint, it's the same thing with the kitchen, then you have to go out to bid to see what it is. Going back to, what do we want to be, improving the facilities, I think is important. There is a space issue. I mean, there's no doubt it's a popular facility. The boards prior that approved that clubhouse and design, is what made it is today. We've, in essence, outgrown it. Credit to the community, the board, from using it. So I think, going back to the vision is, okay, we know the kitchen be resolved. It's going to be good for 20 years. Just arbitrarily saying, I don't foresee we're going to need bigger space based on clubhouses that we have in our organization, clubhouses that we've been with and done. But from the footprint of the outside, for the floor space and expanding, and I know there was one drawing to enclose the patio, having a professional architect look at it and say, hey, we want to have restaurant space that's open 365 days for the residents and members, not closed for functions, which obviously causes issues throughout the year. To do that, I think the next step in the process would be just like you did with the kitchen. At some point, when the community grows, a board, just like yourself, will have to go down that road. It just depends if it's obviously this board or the next, trying to put that plan of what it looks like.
There's got to be a decision made as to whether we really want to spend the money to become the banquet facility for Sebring as well. I mean, that's kind of, that happened as an attempt, a successful attempt to drive more business into the restaurant because we weren't busy enough to justify the cost.
Yeah, and the direction, and boards changed. The direction prior, I'm not saying it's changed that much, but it was to reduce the assessment coming to the club, and in order to reduce the assessment, there's two options. Cut expenses or drive more revenue. And in all essence, it's a lot more fun to drive more revenue than cut, because you cannot cut your way to success. So, from that direction of trying to grow the business and bring people, and, it's just based on historical financials, excluding depreciation, is financially it's gone in the right direction. So we're at a point now where it's the capacity issue, and obviously when, and with Mike Lemire here, and we talked about it earlier, he's not on the phone, hey, book your event. It's just, from what has happened, it's like a snowball. It's just gotten bigger and bigger, and the phone rings, hey, we got the date open. we've booked events, and we are very sensitive to how much is booked. Sometimes it gets clustered in 3 in a month. Obviously it's May, and knowing that a lot of the residents and members go north, so there's less of an impact, but it still impacts the ones that are here, year round. So,
well, it also impacts people who are coming to Sun and Lake to have dinner. Don't call for reservations. You don't call for reservations in Sebring from May until November.
That's right.
But they might drive up and all of a sudden we're closed. Well, you think they're ever coming back?
Right. And saying that.
And that happens because, we...
And you don't know. I mean, a couple could drive up and, hey, we're looking at Sebring. They come on a day where it's closed, or we have a bunch of, golfers in there, having a great time, and they should have a great time, but there's, and did we lose a sale? We don't know. I can't prove that, but, I think we all could say it does happen. You give places one try, and if you have a bad experience, you've moved on. So, to this point, from an operations standpoint, it's got to where we're at, and, going back to solving one part, which is the kitchen, it's huge for the club, but it's mostly staff, efficiency, safety, ability to do some cool things, pizzas and different things like that, which would be awesome, but it does not solve some of the complaints that do come.
Well, at this point, because I'm getting tired, I think I would be very agreeable to getting the price on the expansion, was it RFP or whatever that's called, put out a bid for it, and for you to get back to us within 5 or 6 days of the equipment situation, so that next meeting we can look at it and decide to put that out for bid, and perhaps have this is just me again, perhaps have a workshop to define what we want this place to be.
I think what we agreed on, or somewhat agreed on, is Tom is going to go out and kind of take that list of equipment and get some pricing on that. It's not going to be a formal RFP, and we'll have to probably do that, correct? Because of but he's close enough to the industry that he can get that pricing, and we'll feel pretty comfortable on it. That was number one, and we can do that readily, very quickly. The second part was to take the existing drawing that we have and then turn that into construction drawings, which will take, several months to do, and then I would say we probably put the RFP out for the building of the construction of the facility.
And in the meantime, we're going to have to put a number in the budget.
And then we put because we have budgets coming up.
So do we need a motion to request that the construction drawings be started? Do we need to do that today?
I truly believe the architect wanted to do the construction and the kitchen equipment all together, in a package. And so what we need to do, I'm saying that out loud, I have a feeling that's probably the case. So.
Oh, it absolutely will. They make more money that way.
Yes, exactly. So we have an option to go ahead and have him draw the construction drawings. That's the biggest part of it. The kitchen equipment that has to be in there, he will also need to put that in the design, because you have electrical, you have new walls, you have all those things. So I can instruct him to go ahead and start the process. You're going to talk to your consultants, get back to us about pricing on a list of equipment, but your recommendation was to bid out the construction as is and all the equipment that we have, and have the bid come in itemized, so we know when the bids are received how much equipment we have and how much each one is, so we can only award what we need.
Okay.
And that's something we don't have to do today or at the next meeting, but
when we request the construction drawings, are we going to somehow specify what we want included and what we don't? I.e., we want the construction drawings with the cooler, with the hood.
The plan would be make the construction drawings exactly how they have it laid out. Because the important part is, even if you don't put in 15 pieces of equipment, when you do put it in, you're going to need the plumbing, you're going to need the gas, and you're going to need the electric there. Otherwise, you're going to have additional costs later. So when they're doing the drawing, it's like, hey, we're going to do all this. The only thing we're telling them is the equipment is going to be bid separately than all in one. That's the only difference. But they're putting the outlets and the plumbing and all together.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
And to the other issue of strategic planning and what do we want to be, I think that's part of Delozier's stuff.
Exactly.
The man's been here once. How's he going to know?
Well, then we wasted a bunch of money hiring him to start off with.
Well, I think we take what he gives us as a tool, but eventually,
but you know,
we have to do it.
It would be premature for us to start a strategic planning meeting without seeing what he's coming back with.
That's fine. I mean, he's coming back to us mid-May, so I'm just saying that this board is going to have to be the ones to do it. I don't think we should wait for the next board.
I would agree.
I agree. And if they want to change it, that's fine with me.
Hopefully they don't change it. Hopefully we get it right.
Any other final board comments? No?
No.
Again, do we need a motion?
In the right direction.
No, we don't need a motion.
Okay,
If
all right.
the board's directing, we can move forward with getting the construction.
Okay,
So we're going to do
that's
those.
fine.
That's fine. And I'll have them started as soon as he can on those, which will be several months down the road anyway.
You've already had 2 chances.
3 minutes, Bill. 3 minutes, because normally workshops we don't.
This is 9 minutes. He's already had 6 minutes.
I'll try to make it quick. First of all, about 3 hours ago, I'm only kidding, Mark had a suggestion, how can we attract people here? Now, while Kevin is here, I'd like to know, was the Sunday brunch ever successful? I know that the people said it was pretty expensive. It started out small, then it ended up like $20 a piece. So that is one idea to bring people in, because on Sunday, a lot of places are closed. And so just bring new people in, they check out the environment. I think it would be a good idea. Is it successful? Can we make money with it? Or break even? What?
Well, we've never tried Sunday brunch since.
There was one. Probably before you.
Before my time. I wouldn't be opposed to it if the community would support it. I mean, it would be worth it. But if you're going to do, in my opinion, business-wise, if you're going to do 20 or 30 people on Sunday, it's not going to be worth it.
Well, you understand, you know, it could be, we have an active shooter.
He said 20 people.
What I'm saying is that, you know, you have a $9.95 buffet. Reduce the number of people working there, and see how it worked out, because it would bring in people. That's the main concern. For an idea, as I say, why not?
I mean, I'm not opposed to giving it a shot. I just, you know.
I think it would have to be in season.
It would have to be
in season.
Yeah.
In season, you got 30 people waiting an hour outside of Bob Evans. You know, every Sunday morning.
I mean, yeah, we could include in next year's labor budget, because it's obviously going to take more labor. I mean, you're going to be
in the
running
proper
overtime
advertising
at that point. But I'm not opposed to trying it. I mean, as long as it's supported, it's great. You know,
it's just an idea. Okay, on this building of the kitchen expansion, we all agree it has to be done. We also, now if you build this Cadillac, now people come in, and if it becomes really popular, what are you going to do for dining? So you have to think about expanding a building and doing the kitchen. If you can do it for the 2-for-1, it would be ideal. But that's very expensive. Excuse me. But you know, we don't know how much the expense would be. Tanya has mentioned, well, is it going to be $200 a square foot, $300 a square foot? You don't know. You don't know. And it's very important, as Ron says, you have not committed plans, but an idea, schematic. I mean, when you're talking $1.4 million, whatever it is, Hanukkah could probably build 5 houses for that.
That's 3 minutes.
5 houses.
Okay, Billy, you gotta wrap it up, my friend.
Okay, what I'm saying is that it's going to be a tough sell to the community because the original plan was to have hamburgers and hot dogs and catered meals. So now we're trying to expand it to make it a real, legitimate, good restaurant. So I understand the problems, but it's going to be a tough sell for the community, I think, unless we can really cut the cost down.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. Oh, wow, wait.
What came to me, I don't know if you can consider the construction people, the pop-up building idea. I saw that recently online because I'm getting ready to do a project that might expedite or that might, I don't know. Is the pop-up building a temporary situation or is it something you can use permanently? But I know that I saw that that's now on the market. So to expand stuff, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, that's a whole
I'm not
nother-
familiar with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I adjourn the meeting, and I'm pretty sure we had discussion to and from the board, but one of my coworkers here wanted to have some discussion to and from the board, so.
I just mentioned that, I didn't know we had it, and I just wanted to mention to Tanya, I know we've talked several times about Pebble Beach, the expansion and so on and so forth. And you said Mike and, was it Drew, we're going to walk it and that. Just, can you make sure that they get that done though, so we don't, this is something real important to the community, and, you know, whatever you're looking for, we should find out, and, because I'd like to get going on that as quick as we possibly can, okay? If that's possible.
And I have a quick question of you. I forgot to ask you the other day. The Schumacher and,
Thank you, Mark.
I apologize.
where there's a road problem, Schumacher and Cortez, yeah, you told me that the county's got to take care of it. Do we know, I mean, how does that work? They just do it whenever they want to, or?
Yes, I mean, we've reported it, so I don't have a timeline from Mike yet. He did talk to the county personally, so they put it on a schedule. I don't have, yeah.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yes.
Good, Michael. You have another one?
No.
No, that's it? No further questions?
I have one.
Okay.
The rescheduling of the meetings in late May and early June, maybe too late to do anything about it, but I find the way that was done objectionable. I don't like the idea of taking one agenda and breaking it into 2 meetings, and I just think that should have been...
Well, I can call in from Alaska.
I understand why we rescheduled it. I guess I don't understand why we didn't reschedule the entire agenda, as opposed to having a meeting for one agenda and then having another meeting the following week for another agenda.
Well, actually, I think it's, unless something's changed in the last couple of days, it'll be 4 people at one meeting. The other meeting is a budget workshop, which I believe is pretty critical, that I would like to see all board members participate.
You might have 4.5 because I'm going to be flying all night long.
Yeah, that's okay. You'll be here. Physically, you'll be here.
I guess my point is, you know, if we're going to make decisions that affect all of us, they shouldn't be unilateral. And again, if it's, I don't care whether we do anything about this particular schedule, but just for future reference, that's all.
Okay.
Is there still consensus on having the new meeting on June 5th on a Tuesday? Or do we?
Well, if we...
What happened?
Did everybody get back to you when you?
Yes, everyone got back to me.
And did they say okay?
Did they say all right?
I said I will be there in body, but I'd like it a heck of a lot better on Wednesday when I wasn't jet lagged from flying all night.
So my apologies to Mr. Stiegel. He mentioned to us that he could possibly be jet lagged.
Let's make this real simple. Let's do it the Wednesday. We don't have to advertise. Oh, yes, we do. We have to advertise a special meeting.
We will, yes, sir.
Okay. Let's do it Wednesday, if everybody is in agreement to that right now. You agree?
I have my calendar in my head. How do I know? Yes.
I think I'm okay.
I'll tell you what.
I mean,
If somebody can't make it, they'll dismiss the budget meeting. It's not that important. Okay? Let's do it for Wednesday. I believe it's the 5th now, 6th. That will be the 6th.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
is Dan going to be alert?
Yeah.
He'll be done. Okay?
Got a better chance.
Any other further discussion? Meeting adjourned.